Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of By the Numbers. I'm your host, Richard Lewis. My co-host is Duncan Thorin Shields. Sam is pressing the buttons from Vegas now. He's next door. So if you hear him coming, calm down.
There you go.
If you hear him coming through the microphone, that's
got all the setup, everything, you know.
Yeah, well, we're actually.
Yeah,
I got I've got my big like Joe Rogan style office. Sort of arriving. I went like a big, podcast table and some lights and shit. So we've got me and Sam.
Sam, pull up that time Dorsey ripped the monkey's dick off. Look at him. His grip strength is unbelievable, isn't it? Anyway, more bulletproof coffee.
Yeah, basically, it's going to be like that. So we're going to be setting that up over the next few days. So we'll be back with some regular content. Obviously, this is where we shoot the shit right at the start of the show. I'll tell you about what I got up to. You did something interesting recently. I saw on your Twitter feed, so I thought, fuck it, we'll talk about that for a bit. But, I was getting a bit jaded. I thought last episode I was kind of like very clear about just how loathsome working in esports can be. When you're dealing with
the one, Rich, where it's like, is this the suicide talk or the retirement talk? Which one is it? Because you gotta, there's nuances to it, which one it is.
I'll say this: I am shelving the suicide. I'm shelving that for a while. So
it's played out.
Well, I've just got money now. So it just seems a bit of a waste. I'll wait till
to live. Yeah, exactly. Wait till you get the bottom before you do that. It'll come.
I'm going to wait until I'm at absolute rock bottom, won all the money, and got a bum liver, and then obviously we do the Nicolas Cage leaving Las Vegas. Yeah, that's what we do. So I'm definitely
the only people, Richard, as far as I can tell, who did take the message from that movie of like, brilliant way to go out, really. Everyone else was like, oh, it's pretty tragic. I was sort of like, yeah, but, if you're going to go out anyway, that's pretty banging, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I always think of it in the same way, like, Hemingway did it, and not a sad suicide, not like a tragic suicide, but just I am fully in control, fully aware of what I'm doing. Like, people forget that those guys even iced themselves, right? You know what I mean? So I want to do it like that, like get to a point where you're absolutely like, you know what, this is just, and I've had enough now. It's all good, and then that'll be it. So it's definitely on the shelf for ages, Duncan. You don't need to worry about me. I am good. I'm having a good time. But retirement talk, definitely. There was a lot of thought about, like, do I want to be involved in certain scenes and communities? Because between getting absolutely fucking wrecked by the FGC and my time at E-League, and as I said, the changes in the Counter-Strike community, it's just been like, it was just, I just couldn't fucking deal with it. But then I went and I did a PUBG event, right? New company that I'm working for. It's all out there now, ESP Gaming. We started something called the World Showdown of Esports. And we did a PUBG event. And it was fucking sick. I actually had fun. I was working incredibly hard. I'm still a little bit, you can probably hear my voice is blown out. I'm a little bit tired. I didn't get a lot of sleep for a week. There was a lot of effort in pulling it off. But it was nice to be around a fledgling scene again. You know what I mean? Like feeling it from the grassroots and the wide-eyed optimism of all the guys. They've got their first esports jerseys, and influencers are getting into it now,
Sure,
like, and Trick 2G was there. I got to have a drink with Trick 2G. I was fucking stoked about that. That was one on the bucket list. And I just thought, you know what? Esports is all right, Duncan. It's all right, mate. You've just got to pick and choose where you're at. So I come into this podcast still fuck everyone.
Sure. In Counter-Strike.
Obviously. Fuck everyone I talked about last week. Still fuck those people.
Yeah, obviously.
But I actually feel loads better. And the thing that
what's weird though, Rich, is actually when people were commenting on last week's episode, because remember we had a lot of revelations there. We had some screenshots, we had some behind the scenes info. What's weird is one of the main people referenced in that who was somewhat, I would say, what would the word be, exposed, shown to be a cunt. They didn't, bizarrely, this time come into the thread and say, oh, bloody love Richard Lewis. Oh, what's going on? Why? They couldn't be found, Rich. I don't know that. I thought they were a member of the community. So it's weird how when people actually do get the sort of beating that they've been cruising for, they just go under a rock, don't they? You can't find them anymore.
Yeah, and listen, it's like I say, I want to make it absolutely clear, just to tag on to last week's episode as well. It's never too late for redemption. I'm not a fucking social social justice type. I'm not saying you're excommunicated forever. You know, you're not woke enough. Like, you know, the Rush B guys, they could definitely go out and do good work, but you got to stop treating the fraternity of journalism like it's a battlefield. The only people that you should be actively going after are the liars and the you know, the fucking scam artists, you know, the people who use journalism as a platform for their own ends, kind of like what this guy has done. It's never too late to turn the corner and do good work. I mean, again, I should have brought it up at a time. It escaped my memory. But do you remember that CSGO news guy, Legit's Giving,
yes,
or whatever he calls himself?
Yes.
Well, people might remember how he published a disgraceful story about Mo, you know, trying to make it look like he'd had an affair. You know, someone had created a fake Tinder profile or something, and he literally went and said, "Look at Mo having an affair on his wife," which, by the way, not in the public interest in any way, shape, or form, even if it were true. Absolute demonstrably untrue. The account had nothing to do with Mo at all, and he ran that story because he was angry at Mo. And when you get into that, like, sort of, you know, world of revenge journalism, it's not how you're protecting yourself. So if people remember, I had him on my podcast, and I gave him, like, sort of a, you know, a talking to about why he shouldn't do that and how he can, you know, come back to the light. And, you know, but again, I've never done anything to help, you know, young and upcoming journalists in the scene. The one good thing that came out of that episode, of course, is that's what gave DK his start. So, yes. But anyway, so.
No, but to reiterate what you're kind of saying there in a different way, basically, I actually made this point in the last episode. The big problem a lot of these people have had is just that they aren't like they haven't been trained as journalists. So what happens is they're transitioning from community member, in certain cases, like actual troll, who's hiding behind anonymity, no one knows you. You can say, yeah, you know what? If you want to just be a troll, you can say anything you want about anyone forever. You'll be fine. But if you then want to be a credible journalist, especially someone who's trusted, you've got to, like, take some of the edge off some of that, you know.
Yeah, exactly. And people were like messaging Hassie, like giving their fucked up, deranged cliff notes of what the point of the show was, and telling him, "Oh, Richard said, you know, you should be held accountable to the standards of a journalist." No, I said, if you are working alongside a journalistic publication, your mere presence creates a credibility issue, sure, which it does, right? And I know he doesn't want to be a journalist. We've talked about it many times. He doesn't want to do that because, well, for many reasons. But first of all, he just likes the autonomy of being who he is and doing what he does. And he's got 30,000 Twitter followers just by doing that. So it's obviously working. It's obviously, you know, there's no need for him to go down the sort of correct path. He can just leak shit and do whatever he wants. But if you're going to associate yourself with a publication and journalists, and that association is there, and you're feeding the information to another author, then yes, for me, it creates an ethical and credibility issue, and that's all I was kind of saying last week. But look, we'll move away from that. You did something pretty cool. I saw you went to a Jordan Peterson gig, which seemed to be the envy of a lot of people on Twitter. I saw like comments going a bit cringy, honestly, but some were like, "It's so good to know that Duncan, one of my favorite esports content creators, is also a fan of Jordan Peterson. Make your bed, #love you, Duncan." So it was a bit fucked up and a bit weird, but I'm not really that big a fan of that attempt at, like, you know, human, because it's just nerds doing it, isn't it? It's like when it's like if you post a music video, and they're like, "Wow, oh, bloody glad you like Pearl Jam." Like, what does that have to do with me, you, or anything to do with that? Like, you know, come on, man. Is that how desperate you are for human interaction? A bad one happened to me, actually, right? Before we talk about Jordan, I put up, right? Me and Maria were playing like this game of what we call Twitter chicken, right? You know, chicken, like you're in the cars and you're driving towards each other, and one of you has to swerve at the last minute or you both crash. So we were just putting out like the most awful, ridiculous, cringeworthy tweets could.
And people were saying that people were loving them, right?
So I put out one where I said, "This is my first sauna," right? Now, I know I've got a lot of furries that consume my content. You dress up as animals and fuck each other. Do whatever you want.
Let's be real.
But I'm sorry. I think it's fucking weird, guys. I can't get past it. But I put out like, "This is my first sauna," and it was a big blue, like muscular wolf, like bending over, slightly parting his ass cheeks.
You're mentally ill.
Right? And someone replied to me going, "Richard Lewis is a furry. My favorite content creator just got better for me." I'm like, right, you're blocked. Fucking get out.
It's the idea that's taking it. Like, you know, it was like, "Oh, I was almost right there. Oh, I need something else." Oh, There we go.
Spread hoop.
It's like Patrick Stewart in that fucking extras episode. So I'm like, oh, nudity.
Eat everything. Oh my god! Right. Anyway, let's talk about some fuck. Oh, no, tell what Jordan. Fuck. Sorry, I'm an asshole. I'm dominating the conversation. Go on. Tell me about that gig, man.
Yeah, it was pretty good actually. Like I have to say, like this is just the way my mind works. Right, when it first started, and you're watching, because obviously, unless you're in the absolute front row, you can't actually physically see the people. You're mainly watching a screen. And I actually had the first thought that I often have when you go to that sort of thing, where it's like I've often thought it's about esports unless the crowd was mega. I think it's actually better to watch on streaming it. Like, why are you fucking wasting your time coming here? You get a better view on the stream. So at first I thought, like, actually, maybe this won't be as sick as I thought, because to be fair, when you watch one of those videos, it's like 2 hours long. You don't watch it all in one go necessarily. You pause it, you come back later, you just see it in your watch later list, and it's halfway through and you go, right, I'll pick it up again. So I was worried it wouldn't be that good. But actually, to be fair, I actually think it was more interesting somehow, even though I've heard some of the topics discussed before, because it was live. So somehow the fact it was live made you think like, oh, how is this guy going to respond to that actually? It actually created kind of attention I didn't expect to see. So I thought it was pretty fun actually. I did think, unfortunately, though, if you've ever heard those two people talk with each other, Sam Harris and Jordan Peterson, they are never going to basically see eye to eye on certain topics, as in they're not even going to see each other's points on certain topics. So there was a little aspect there that was like a little bit annoying, because like because I actually like both. So as a result, the annoying thing for me is I like wish I was the moderator, because I could be like, no, that's not what he's saying. No, what he's trying to say is, in your world, this is how he would say that, and then what he would say here is a different concept. So I maybe that's just the content creator, where if I was the host, obviously I wouldn't let people just bloody talk around each other like that. I'd step in at some point, so that was a bit frustrating. But aside from that, it was very interesting. Like it lived up to the billing.
I'm glad, because I know, like me, I think you had a few problems with Sam Harris, right? Like after the whole Trump sort of, he did become a little bit hysterical.
Or not. Like, I actually like to listen to his podcast. I find it fun. Like, believe it or not, one reason I like it is just because you have a very soothing voice. He doesn't go sort of like super up and down. He's just a very chilled out guy. A lot of his topics are good. I have to agree with you. Any one of his podcasts that addresses Trump, I just don't listen to him, because I can't handle him anymore. Like he's a good example of, he is the best example of Trump derangement syndrome, because he's so logical in every other regard. But that's like his one blind spot, that's his fucking white whale that somehow just brings everything irrational out of him. Actually, it's really weird.
Yeah.
It's like one part where I do really diverge hard.
Yeah, it was hard for me to sort of reconcile. He's been this guy who's always like very logical, and almost too logical sometimes, like a Vulcan, in some of the things he said in the past. And then when it gets to Trump, it's like a fucking teenage girl. It's like it's ridiculous, hormonal, histrionic.
His reaction to Trump is basically like a 15-year-old boy in like Oklahoma when he sees like the fucking villain in a wrestling show, and he's at it like, hey, Oklahoma sucks. He's like, boo, get this guy out. It's like, dude, like, I know you're into it, but this is fake, right? Like, why are you getting so triggered? Like, you're thinking it's real. Yeah, they all go to the show and fucking have a beer. They're not even real characters. You know what, people do that with any political. Like, here's the thing, okay? Obviously, people could probably guess I'm not a fan of fucking Hillary Clinton. But you know what? Beyond the criminal shit she's done, if you ever watch interviews with her, she seems to have some level of charisma. She doesn't seem like the worst person ever. Definitely done some criminal stuff, it would appear. But, like, I wouldn't go, like, super triggered off her if she'd have been made the fucking president, I wouldn't be, like, messaging every day, resist, we must blow up the Death Star. Like, I wouldn't be doing that, would I? Just fucking get on with my life.
Yeah, no, man. I can't believe we're so far and it's still going on. But look, talking...
We're 2 years. When does it end? Never ends, does it?
It doesn't end. It doesn't end. It doesn't, brother. So look, let's talk about your derangement syndrome, because we're gonna wrap up. We're gonna talk about Cologne, because that's where we left it last time. We didn't really talk about some of the other storylines that came out of there. Then we'll do all the news and everything that's been going on in the Counter-Strike scene. So your derangement syndrome, G2. You have mad G2 derangement syndrome, no doubt about it in my mind. You are the Sam Harris when it comes to talking about G2. So I wanted to pick your brains about it, because they obviously got 5th to 6th at Cologne, which on the surface I think looks like a very good development, especially the first time we saw them out. They had some pretty rough times. But, they were up there with the Fanatics and the Phases and the Astraluses. They were in the running. So for me, I'm still not sold, man. Like, I think this is a project that, to me, long term, I don't think it can work. I'll say this. Smith's definitely had a much better tournament here at Cologne than he did in his first outing, which was
ECS.
ECS, sorry, my bad, ECS, where he was absolutely fucking diabolical. But again, I don't have any confidence or faith that he'll do that again.
Well, they just had, actually, at the DreamHack Valencia, which was this weekend, they bombed out the groups there. So I'll tie it in if you want. Like, basically,
let's do it then. Go on.
So here's the thing. Like, the way I break down the 3 events goes like this. Very quick summary. So the first event, they actually even said going into it, they never hyped it like, oh, everything's ready, the team's ready, we're going to do shit. They even said coming in, like, we haven't had time to basically properly prepare. We're even doing some of the old shit, like the MBK era or Shocks era type stuff. We're just going to see how it goes for ECS. Then Cologne's supposed to be the real tournament. They came in, they looked. Here's the thing, they still don't look prepared on all the maps, but they have a couple, Dust 2 and Inferno most notably, but they also were able to play Cash, which is interesting, and Mirage. So they had, they actually had an okay map pool. Seemed like they had put in some boot camp work. Kenny S was very good again, like he was at ECS. He was like the one bright spot at ECS. He came in form. He was like superstar player at this event. But the big problem in Cologne was, in both Cologne and ECS, you never saw anything from Shocks. Like, he was actually a very, very meager player. Even when they're beating, like, Mouse Sports in a best of 3, beating Na'Vi, he wasn't doing a whole lot, mate. You can go watch these games. It's not Shocks. Like, you're looking at going, your brain's even just thinking, like, why is he not getting these kills? Even if he's coming back from a wrist injury, surely there's some of that remains. Right. Well, what happened at the Valencia one was, it's like they inverted, because actually it's Kenny S who was really bad for some inexplicable reason. Shocks was really good, like actually was what you hope you'd see if he was going to come back from this injury and not like have some permanent Olaf Meister type scenario happen. He looked very good at the Valencia one. As a team, they did look a bit iffy. Like, they certainly do lack some firepower. You can't argue that away. They've definitely got it figured out on a few maps. I think they're still pretty decent. Thing about them is, beyond like enjoying watching them play, I absolutely wouldn't say they're like a top 5 team in the world, or potentially, well, I don't know, maybe they could be at one point, but that's where basically I come down on at the moment is I actually think that because the main problem in the French scene was, first of all, you'd never had the Kenny S and Shocks together. That's already interesting. You can definitely get on board with that. And then the other aspect is, no matter what you think of existence, there just are no leaders in the French scene right now. NBK, people don't want him to do it. Happy's done. Who the fuck knows what Major's doing over in space? There's basically is nobody. You'd have to go to some tier 3 guy and get him and give him a chance. So for now, it obviously makes sense to give it a go. I think Shocks is pretty all in on it. He seems like he's going to go for it for a long time. So my position on it is, I think that this lineup probably won't get to the absolute top. Like, I think they're going to be a good team. I think once they get, like, they're going to have to be a team like Big, where they're going to have to rely on tactics, setups. They're going to have to get all the firepower out their team. But the key thing for me is, I think that when it works to a degree, the key is then they can make a roster move that makes them a really good team. So I'm waiting for 6 months from now, after the major, when eventually someone like an NBK, a Scream, an RPK says, right, fuck it, okay, this team's got some potential, I'll join it, and then they've got the actual pieces where you could do something. Because, yeah, it is unrealistic to think beyond, like you see how close their wins were at Cologne. It's unrealistic to think they're going to be like banging out FaZe or something. That's going to be very hard with this lineup. So to me, they're a piece away from it.
Yeah, and look, I've got another concern about them right now. It's not just a firepower thing for me. With Kenny S being so important to the team, last couple of times I've seen him out, he's like the old Kenny S I remember from Very Games, where he would bang on the desk and, he'd look really fucking triggered and tilted if things weren't going his way. And I think they need Ken. I think even like Nell made some comments about it, saying like he wishes Kenny would like not revert back to his old self. So it's a phenomenon that seems to have been observed by a few people in the French scene, and they need him dialed all the fucking way in. Like, he can't be going back to the fucking, like, say, the Very Games Titan era Kenny S, where it's like he gets so fucking mad at the fact that he's trying to do it all and there's so much pressure on his shoulders. I kind of felt he left that behind him a little bit. So it just makes me wonder if he's not entirely satisfied with how things are right now. I don't know if you have any insight into that.
As far as I know from talking to him, he seems like he's in on it. The big issue you have to realise, if think about where Kenny S's position is in this whole scenario. So Shock's already is coming off the wrist injury anyway, so he knows initially he's probably not going to be in good form.
Yeah, sure.
But he's not expecting he's going to be the best anyway. You know, he knows it's going to take him time. Also, he clearly wanted to play with Smiths again. That was clearly part of why he's done this move. And then the second part for Shocks is he himself came to the conclusion, well, there's no one left. I've tried everyone else. I've tried myself, MBK, happy. It's got to be Existence. I've got to try and make his system work. So clearly, Smith, Shocks, and Existence are all in on it, and they're all loving it. Like, it's all working for them at the moment. Body, I think, is purely there for the ride. I think he's also there for the major spot. And I think he just understood this is a cynical move. I don't want to be sat on the bench like fucking Apex and MBK, especially because actually, unfortunately, Body's the player who wouldn't get bought. He would just be sat there waiting his contract out. So for him, I don't know if he even believes in it at all. I think he's probably just going with the flow. So you're right. I think Kenny S is the only one who has both the star power and the agency, where if he really wanted to, he could make or break this team. He could say, fuck it. So for me, I do feel a bit like, because he knows individually he has it, but the rest of them don't, maybe he is like waiting to be convinced a little bit. Or maybe he's waiting to see what happens with it, you know, because the big problem with this is you can't really compare it to anything else in history. Because when did you ever have? Because when you combine Shocks is essentially coming out of retirement away because he was fucking out with his wrist injury. When have you ever had a lineup where you had three really storied players, but all coming back at once? It's actually a very ambitious project.
Oh, yeah, for sure. and you know, look, I think, I don't know. My inclination, like my gut feeling is, I think after the major, I think we see something change because I think Body, like you say, he's there for the ride. It's basically play along. You'll get your shine. If it works, brilliant. You know, but if it doesn't, like it is you. You are definitely the make weight. The question then becomes like, who would it be? I know a lot of people are excited about the ZWoo kid.
That's an outside one. The other ones are obviously all people they know. So then it's if they want to go down that path again. I agree. The ZWoo one's obviously one would be exciting, especially because if you're going to have a young talent, even though in the modern day, people see all these sick, like FaZe, Mouse Sports, like loose style teams. Generally, you don't want that with the young player, though. You actually want the young player, the Phelps of the world, to go into one of the really good, an MSL, a God B, someone who actually has like the chops to give you, this is how the game works. This is your role. This is his role. Don't do this because that's his area. No, like just what it'll teach you alone, whether you become a great player at that point or not, because you see the players who don't have that and who get to the top. I feel like that's where like they get really out of control in terms of their ego, etc. Because they don't understand what the other. It's not even that they're just idiots as people, so they don't actually understand what their teammate was supposed to be doing. So then when they're getting all the kills and he doesn't, they think he's just shit. Whereas as some of them had to learn, like fucking Simple with Marklov, like he actually wasn't just shit at the game, mate. He was doing a totally different role than you.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. So look, I think G2 is still some question marks around it. But obviously due to the major. This project kind of has to continue up until that point. I think we'll see changes. But for me at Cologne, I honestly thought they punched a little bit.
For sure. They obviously got a bit further than they should have done. Like for a start off, getting Na'Vi in the best of the one fucking helped. And then Na'Vi let it get to a map that they actually like to play. Like, come on, man. There's a lot of things that had to go their way. Like I say, beating Mouse Sports, they didn't do it in like great fashion. It was still very, very close. Sure, there was some nice rounds, but it took everything out of them. The main thing for me, though, is for anyone who's out there, right? Remember, I always break down the French scene by politics and people's relationship. So the one thing I'll say is this. Don't be a pleb and just read interviews and go, no, they're not going to change the lineup. They say this is the lineup in the book. Like, I've told you this before. Go look in history. There's almost no lineup, even ones that win everything that last like a year. In Counter-Strike, it is just a fact that your lifespan of a 5-man lineup is about 9 months, 6 months. So whether they like each other now, whether they plan now to play with this lineup, the point is, if they don't get godlike results, it'll just happen. Don't worry, my friends. It will happen. Just like we all know in history, somehow, one day NBK and Shocks would play again. Or what do you know? Shocks is playing with Existence again. These are things these people would have told you themselves will never happen again. But I always say this in Counter-Strike. Forget who's friends with who. Just wait until someone gets put in a situation where the only viable move is the thing they said they'd never do. They'll all do it. They'll all do it in the end. That's just the way sports works, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, like it's like you say, the Kobe Shaq stuff is all you need to know right there. Two people, very different philosophies on the game, different personality archetypes, very actively and vocally hated each other. But you know what? When there's fucking rings up for grabs and money up for grabs, you'll make it work, and actually, it happens a lot less often than it should in the French scene. In particular, they're a bit more emotive, it seems. But yeah, you're absolutely right.
They just take longer to get to the same point. Like one thing I always appreciate about some of the other scenes is, I think actually, like for example, like Danish scene, etc. They just make the move when it makes it. I mean, Fallen's the best example ever.
Yeah,
I've said this before. In every interview, he loves all his teammates. He believes in them. They're going to improve. Give Bolts that. What's that? Tarek Seville. What? Sorry, Bolts. See you, mate. Maybe in the next life. Anyway, see ya.
Yeah, see ya. Yeah, I mean, again, like obviously we'll get to that later.
This is the image for you, right? Let's say Fallen, like he really is the true captain. He dots all the I's, crosses all the T's. He takes Bolts all the way to the train station. He says, "Listen, I still believe you can make it. Go out there, play for another team, work your way back. One day I'll see you." All I'm going to tell you is, at the end of the scene, right, as the train's pulling out the station, obviously Bolts looks out the window, expecting Fallen to go. He's already walking away. He's already. Yeah. All he sees is the back of his. He's already got the phone out.
I mean,
you're in. Yeah, I'm teasing it there. I'm just teasing it.
We'll get to that later, but for real, I mean, that's like just such a great example.
I respect it though. I'm not memeing. I respect.
How long ago was it though, where it was like, this is the team that's going to dominate?
That was just the end of last year. Remember, they were winning everything.
Yeah, it's wild, man. But look, I wanted to talk about mouse sports as well, because Cologne was the first event where we had snacks, and I remember we talked about it on episode 38. We were like, how do mouse sports get to that next level? And, it was when the snacks move was being touted. And then people replied in the comments, "This is how mouse sports beat Astralis. They signed motherfucking snacks." And I was like, all right, a lot of snacks fans in the house. Like, okay, tough crowd.
Rich, it was better than that. The people were saying stuff like, if he can just get to like 80% of his old form, they'll be winning. It's like, I love that. Anytime you say
get down to 80% of my fucking peak body weight, I'd be fucking getting modelling work. You know what I mean?
It's like, you can't use the word "if" on such a mad fucking like contingency like that. Like, what, you think he wasn't trying to do that for the last year and a half?
Yeah, of course not. I mean, look, I'll say this: it wasn't a like-for-like replacement with Stico at all, and it was always going to take some readjustment period, right? But like, real talk, they were fucking disappointing at this event for me. Sure, you take down Gambit in a best of one, but they lost to G2, which, as I said, I believe that should have been a beatable series. I think the Ents one, I know Ents had a great tournament. We're going to probably talk about them last. But Mouseboard should be beating that team, all day long with the experience.
Yeah. Here's the thing. Even if there was still a bad team, when they see it's not Na'Vi and it's fucking G2 is in that position, remember, if you get to the last game in the upper bracket, you're in the playoffs already. Yeah. That should have been playoff spot locked up. So the idea you don't even make the playoffs, it's like, what the fuck are you guys doing? There's no excuses for that.
And, look, I'll say as well, and this is why sometimes, look, when we take the guy who is the fucking water carrier of the team, and we cut them loose, and we bring in another star player who wants the room and the space to play their way, it sometimes it detracts from the star players that were already comfortable and having everything go for them. And Rops had, everyone was going, "Oh, Rops was a bit subpar here." Well, that's not a coincidence. It's not a coincidence you take out Stico, does all the support work, anchors down bomb sites by himself, and all of a sudden Rops has a slightly poorer tournament because you're trying to fit another star player into a roster where you've already got an Oscar, you've already got Sonny, you've already got Chris J. You really needed someone to fucking carry the water in that team. And, I don't think Snacks is going to ever adopt that role. So now it's who repurposes themselves to do it. Will Snacks have that lack of ego? Probably not. I think he's got too big a point to prove.
That was my biggest worry the whole time, Rich, is that I don't even think he came into the team thinking, I'm going to do all this stuff. I think he came into the team like, cool, we are another FaZe clan and I'm a star player. It's like, come on, mate. Like, that's the problem. If Snacks himself was like, listen, I know it didn't work in VP, but I've humbled myself. I'm going to be this player you need. I'm going to make you better Ops. He didn't do that. It's Snacks. Look at him. He wants it his way. Like at fucking BK, you got it. Except he doesn't say, except life doesn't go, you got it. It goes, your shit. not a very good catchphrase. Maybe remove that tagline if you're Burger King thinking of bringing that back. It was from the 90s as well.
I just wanted to remember that. I just wanted to announce our new sponsors at the end of the show, but well, we might hold back on that one. But no, like, I'm not as harsh on Snacks as you are. Obviously, I know he's had a few pops at you on social media, which always gives it a little bit of spice to your critique. But I definitely think he can do a job in this team, but I want him to be put in roles that probably are closer to what Stico was doing than what he wants to do. It's the only way I can see it working out for the team is if Snacks becomes sort of almost like a Crims type player, and gets back to doing what he does. Well, when he first burst into the team, if you remember, before he blew up, when Bialy and Snacks came in, everyone was like, "Who the fuck are these kids?" He would be the lone bomb site player by himself. He would sit in the smoke and play around it and make clever plays and be really good defensively. He's had many evolutions and adaptations since then, but he needs to go back to that. He really does need to go all the way fucking back to basics for me to fit into this team, and I don't know if he wants to do it. I don't know. I got serious doubts about this move. Look, I know everyone thinks that I fucking probably heap praise on Stico way too much. But I said when he went into Mouse Sports originally replaced Dennis, they were getting a massive upgrade. And there were people out there that said that was wrong, and it's not wrong. And then when Stico had that poor tournament where he was, below even his standard and not even doing the rolls right, and definitely wasn't hitting his shots, he got absolutely fucking crucified, and he came back and he did it. He was brilliant at the next event, the one where they had nothing as a stand-in. I think it was. He's definitely doing all of his roles. People were going, but nothing got higher rating. Again, they gave nothing much more of a laissez-faire role in the team. Do what you want. You're a stand-in, and Stico was doing his job. Those were the games I was watching. So I was very surprised when they decided to let him go. And I thought when he was doing the stand-in work for C9, I think he's looked good. I honestly think players like that are so rare, you don't realize how good you've got it until they're gone. And we've seen it time and time again in Counter-Strike with Taco. And, these players get removed from the team and everyone thinks it's going to be the next fucking golden age. But it ain't. The roster does worse because all of a sudden the glue ain't there. And I think that's the problem Mousesports got. I don't know if they can make the Snacks lineup work.
I agree with you. Here's the problem with those examples. So Taco and Stico are the two best ones because here's the thing. Yes, individually they both have some problems, and sometimes we're playing worse up to the point where they were removed. But the reason why, to tie into what you're saying about how they work in the team structure and balance, it didn't make sense to remove them, is they were not the biggest problem. That wasn't the main reason Mouse wasn't winning. So what they did was they took what wasn't their main reason they weren't winning away and then found out it was, to some degree, one of the reasons they were winning. Well, now you've just utterly fucked yourself. To me, Mousesports right now, it's not like it can't work, but it actually reminds me of the SK lineup before they got Tarek, where they had Bolts. Because remember, Bolts shouldn't be playing a pure support role either, but they were sort of making him do that like Taco did. So they ruined him as a player. So as a result, Mousesports now, just like that team, you look at them on paper that you go and you should be able to do something here. I used to look at that SK lineup every tournament and go, I see why people buy into it. All the analysts, by the way, every single tournament, no joke, all the other analysts I was at would always be going, I think SK can do it this time. They're going to have a deep finish. And I'd go, I know what you mean, but I've never seen them do it. So I'm going to go the other side and say they won't. They have to actually show me that they're a top team. So that's the same thing with Mouse. I agree. You look at the names on paper. Of course, you could be a good team. They could find some way to do it. I don't know what the way is going to be and what team it's going to look like. That's why I have big doubts about it. But if they fail, then maybe they're going to have to learn something about Counter-Strike because they've got the pieces to be very good.
Yeah. And again, I always feel sorry for Chris, because how much more can this guy fucking do, by the way, at the moment? Always the guy who shifts what he's doing in the team, Orper, Rifler, in-game leader, whatever you need me to do, I'll do it. He's obviously the kind of cohesion, the connection, because he's been at the organization for so long, always taking on more responsibilities and roles to make the rosters work. And he's playing out of his motherfucking mind at the same time, the career best form. And I don't know. Again, I think this might be a bridge too far for him. He's not Stephen Hawking, is he? He's not a fucking genius. He can't just...
I wonder where you go with that. Fucking hell. All right.
Well, obviously Stephen Hawking's dead.
Yes.
And also, just remembered he's dead.
Yes, fair enough.
So he's not Stephen Hawking by virtue of being alive.
It's not in any context Stephen Hawking, you're right.
You know what I mean? You can't be fucking galactic brain and so I've got a player who plays a style I've never really worked with before, and I'm trying to make him fit into a team with a team composition we've never had before, and there's now he's going to want this and that. I've never worked with him before. This is a fucking tall order. Like a seasoned in-game leader would struggle to make all these pieces fit.
Especially because another problem they have in that squad is, like, this is why I actually agreed with you on the point we made on the last episode, that one of the reasons why it's mad that they made the roster move is because if you look in isolation at 2018, you know why they made the roster move, because they were like, we were very good, but we sort of had a little dip and we want to get to number one. The problem is you can't ignore where you came from. And if you look at what happened in the end of the last half of 2017, 2018 is fucking amazing. You overachieved. You got everything out of every player, seemingly. You could even be going up just because Rops might get better. There's an option that could really happen. So if anything, you stick with it a little bit longer, at least. You're trying to, and especially you want to figure out what the real problems are, So the problem I have now is, because if anything, they overachieved, I don't think that their team is the team that it looks like on paper. Because, for example, look at the 3-star players they've got. Oscar, never been in an elite team his entire career, played at tier 2 or not even tier 2 in the past, and is obviously, people are now aware, something of a weird guy. I'm not going to say he's got a flawed personality entirely, but he's just a weird guy, He seems like he's sort of in his own world a bit and doesn't necessarily connect super well with the other teammates there. So he's someone, I get the sense, he's what I call a comfort player. You've just got to put him in scenarios just where he's comfortable and sort of let him go and no one say anything to him and just hope he fucking does it. And if he does, wicked. But the problem is that's not a guy who's going to adapt to other people. Then you look at Sonny. Sonny's barely been in the scene. He was playing in dog shit Finnish teams, doing nothing. He's been in Penta and been in one major. That's it. And then he's mouse spots, that's it. So is he going to switch up what he does? Is he going to be able to adapt to him? I don't know. I'm amazed it worked in mouse spots. And then Rops is obviously the one where that stretches credulity entirely. He's 1 year into a pro career. He's already done all this amazing shit, had so many really good games. You're fucking messing with the golden goose there by putting new players in and changing up what they're doing. That's why I say I would, for many reasons, almost every member in the lineup notice we've gone down and there's reasons you wouldn't do it. I think they might have tinkered with this one a little bit too much. It's dangerous when you've got a good team and you potentially fuck with it there, because the other part of it is, if I'm doing the move to upgrade to number one there, I'm not doing the drastic move. This is the kind of move that an SK did, but they were doing it when they had shit results. You've done the drastic move no one knows will work when you were really good. In that scenario, the only move you should be doing is if you can get MBK. If it's right, it's a pure upgrade, a guy who can definitely do this role, got all the experience, every factor, he's a tick and he's above the other one. That's the only time you mess with the potentially winning lineup, I think, personally.
Yeah, and that's what's crazy, right? Because, we all saw the numbers that were getting kicked around for Snacks. I can't believe for a second, right? I know there was some wild numbers getting kicked around for NBK's contract in G2. I heard some insane shit, like Kiyashima levels when he was at FaZe, where it's he'd be one of the most expensive players in the world if bought. Yeah. But they went mid 6 figures for Snacks. I can't believe if you call fucking Carlos up on the blower and went, look, mate, we're going to buy Snacks for this. We are going to spend it.
Use them as a chip.
Yeah.
And also, by the way, if you're Mouse, the deal that you have that no one else has, the reason why Cloud9 will have to pay the max for NBK is because what the fuck have they got without him? I'm going to wait all day and get the max value if I sign this guy to him. But you know what? If you're Mouse Sports and you call up and you say, first of all, I've already got an amazing team. In fact, my team's better than yours. Secondly, I can sign Snacks right now and I'll pay 300k for him, 290k for him. So you know what? How about fuck 800k? Let's just make a deal, 400k, whatever it is. It's good. In that scenario, I agree. You could definitely work a deal out. Everything makes sense for everyone.
Esports needs more Harry Redknaps. That's what we need, mate. You know what I mean? Yeah, give me a fucking deal. Yeah,
they
fucking
do.
Monster. That's what we
What's
need,
mad is in pro sports, that is always the person that it's only hardcore fans ever know this. But you always have people in pro sports who are like a GM. So there was a guy it was about 10 years ago now. He used to be with the Pacers, who was called Donnie Walsh or something, and he was like this. where he was just the guy where he's never going to get signed like the biggest player. He's never going to get like LeBron to come to your team. But what he'll do is every little deal he does, he'll get a little bit more than he should, and he'll sell them for a little bit more than he should. And he always just gains you a little bit. And as a result, those guys are the fucking actual Don when you know him, you know, like that's the guy where all the sort of heads who know about the sport, no, that guy's fucking killing it. Yeah, whoever that guy becomes in esports, I feel like there isn't one at the moment. Actually, to be fair, in other games, Jack has done that actually. He just hasn't really done it in CSGO, as we'll talk about later.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, the closest.
I'm waiting for that guy to come along, I think.
Yeah, I think the closest would be Jakob Lund Christensen, who's obviously now.
What the fuck is that?
He's the guy who used to run Copenhagen.
Oh, yes, you're right. He actually has done some fucking mad ones. The Kirby one being the most outrageous of all time. Where have you ever tell him that story?
Which one?
But if you remember, I believe it was some mad thing. Like he actually signed Kirby and the next day sold him to Dignitas for like a buyout.
Right, yeah.
So I don't think he ever even played in his team.
No,
and this one just went, I'm making money. Just like, that is pure gangsterism.
But this is the guy who fucking discovered, you know, Bjergsen and in League of Legends and obviously sold him at fucking TSM. You know, they've fucking...
In many ways, a sort of esports analog to that fucking Mamich guy with apparently all the Croatian players, if anyone was reading any interesting Twitter threads recently, because that guy's a fucking G.
Yeah. So, right. So anyway, but let's talk about the Finns before we forget. Ensa, thought this was great, actually, because, I mean, I know you didn't watch a lot of Counter-Strike Source, if any, from way back when. But we had crazy Finnish teams in 1.6.
Yes, I did know about like Angel Dust and a couple of them, but that was a long time ago, obviously.
Well, I mean, the one that immediately springs to mind is obviously 2005's Insignia Cadre lineup, which is where the website Cadre came from. Yeah. So they were like, for a very brief period of time, you know, again, about a 3-month window, I'd say, considered the best team in Europe, therefore probably by extension the world. It was a different time back then. American teams and European teams didn't play each other. That didn't happen for a few more years. But the Finnish teams always had this reputation for, like, you know, crazy, unorthodox, aggressive play. It was the same in 1.6 because I remember the old Astralis lineup that they had over there, and and a few others from way back in the day. It was just, you know, there were spots on all the maps named after them. We had like Odious was one, and you know, like they were like just get in your face. They were all considered online bastards as well, you know, like because they just played so.
Funny thing is, Rich, that's actually what the rep of Finnish Counter-Strike was for a long time, which was basically, and I actually know why it is now. No one knew at the time because it didn't make sense really. Well, the reason is when I actually lived with Natu for a few months, this is like literally like about 14 years ago now, I used to sometimes watch him play, but I'm not talking about when he played his like scrims with his real team, which is one of the best in the world. But for fun, all the Finnish players would play not like a 10-man or a POG. What they would do is they'd have like a little group of friends and they would play clan-based matches against semi-pros and amateurs. And so you'd be going like, Nat, who the fuck are you playing? And you'd be going, I don't know, just some team. And it'd be a bunch of nobodies. And so what they would do is all they would do all night long, and this is basically, as you're going to get at the point of, everyone who isn't basically a pro, and obviously you'd have to be the absolute best player to be a pro at that point in time, everyone who wasn't a pro would just sit there in their apartment drinking energy drinks or beer, just playing in these mad little pickups where, you know, it's not your real team, and would just, you know, as a result, you don't play like a team with strats, you just fucking rush and try and play individually and just go ham. So yeah, that really was the style that they all came from.
Yeah, it was wild. And again, I'm glad you brought Nato up, obviously part of this project, but it just reminded me of the good old days of Finnish Counter-Strike. I remember when this roster was kind of announced, I think we even talked about it on a show, and it was, I can't remember which episode, but it was when Alu like announced his fucking, hey everyone, I said I wanted a Finnish team and here I am, and we were like, fucking please me, you've been to majors.
By the way, did you see everyone was memeing on me briefly, but to be fair, I thought it was funny myself, right? I did one of my preview videos.
Yeah, I did. I wasn't going to bring it up because I thought we've been quite genial and friendly in this episode.
This is fine. I thought it was funny myself because here's the thing, like I actually forgot about it myself until I saw the clip. I thought, what is this clip? And what happens is the way I break the preview down, because Because I actually, as a quick aside, I hate previews like the ones that like HLTV.org does, where it's just like, here are all the teams, and you either just don't give any sort of predictions to what they'll do. You just say, here's who they are, or you just make it sound like everyone has a chance. I hate those sort of previews. So what I explicitly do is I try to make it like, here are the tiers. So, you have the favourites who could win the tournament.
Yeah, exactly right.
So obviously, I always put a last tier, and this is where it's actually quite brave because no one else dares do this. I don't say that, like, if fucking VG Flash goes to a tournament, they could do really, but no, they're not. They're going to do bad. So I have a tier that I'd call no chance. Now, two of the teams that were in no chance, which means you have no chance to do anything, was Ents. Fair enough. Everyone's got that one. Ents and Boot. And Big, obviously. So those were the.
You got fucked.
But you know what? 1 out of 3 ain't bad. Yeah.
Mate, that's classic. No, here's the thing. I've been wanting to say this to you, but I didn't know how to broach the subject. I have noticed, right? Like, you've been making a lot of jokes lately about how you're in charge of the simulation. Let me just tell you from a friend.
Obviously,
you're not, mate. You're not, right? And you literally jinx shit all the fucking time. I've never seen it. Like, you'll, right? FaZe will be like 12-0, like 12-0 up, and you'll tweet out, FaZe, of course, just banging motherfuckers out as expected. And it's that moment where the other team will come back and FaZe will like lose 19-17 in overtime. And I'm like, why'd you fuck? Honestly, mate, I don't know what you've done, but the cosmos is not happy with you, mate. You got to stop it. You're fucking over your own self.
It's all right. G2's winning the major.
But yeah, man, I did see that. It was fucking hilarious. But like, I mean, look, real talk. You got to be impressed with this team. I mean, Arlu is not like, when you consider Arlu isn't even the best player in this roster, despite his star power.
Yes.
I was super. This Sergey kid is fucking lights out. I mean, there's been a lot of talk about, up and coming talent in the scene. I really think we are getting a sick generation of players coming out. Well, if we've got time, we'll talk about Esperanto probably a little bit later. Because I want to show some of the pitfalls of young players and where it can kind of go wrong.
Here's the thing as well, Rich. Like, for people who didn't follow all of CSGO, one of the reasons why, if you go back like 2 years, a lot of the new talent I never thought was going to make the top, because what people didn't know is they actually weren't new talent. There were people who were like fucking 23 years old, and it's their first team. So actually, like, I think there was like, I'm trying to think who it was who was like old like that as well. I think like, I forget who. I think it was some Danish player who was like quite old at that. And so everyone thought he was a rookie. It's like, he is a rookie, but he's 23 years old. It's not just going to improve. I think it was Moore from Gambit. There we go. I think he's like 23. So even though he's only played a couple of years, he's not going to get 3 times better, is he? Like, come on, he's already lived his life basically in terms of esports. Then you look at some of the players where it's not even that they're old physically, they're just old in the scene. Like you haven't seen them because they weren't in tier 1, but you know what? They were playing in fucking tier 3, but in 2013 you just didn't know because that was nobody, and tier 3 didn't even go to the land back then. My point is, those players aren't legit when they have like a little one tournament or they get on a half decent team and they have some okay results. That ain't legit. But you're right, these people coming through now have all the hallmarks that they're just going to be fucking talents. Ross, obviously this guy Esperanto, that every marker tells you it's looking straight fire to start with.
Well, so I mean, I remember when this Sergey kid was, first being talked about, and obviously we've been burned before in the Finnish scene with Joel Z, and for those that don't remember him, Joel Z was. I'll be honest, I'll say it. I thought he was bullshit. I mean, just on the eye test, no evidence, just the gut feeling.
Especially when you then find out that classic thing you always find out, which is like he's dodged lands. Yeah. And then when you say, oh, this person's suspiciously too good online and dodges lands, and then people are like, how could you call him out as a cheater? Come on, man.
Yeah.
Come on. Again, I'm not a judge in a court of law. I don't need actually to fucking innocent until proven. I'm just giving my opinion, Anna. That looks suspicious. It's like, I'll tell you what, Richard. Today, I was looking through my old Facebook messages, right, just seeing if there's any I'd missed, and I saw one I hadn't actually noticed, because I get people who just send me random shit that I normally ignore, and it was just that same old clip we've all seen 700 times, where it's that pro Overwatch video where it's like like X-Files music. It's like, how did Flusher get that kill on Cash? You know, when he like locks on the guy in the wall. And the guy just said, right, even though it's fucking 2018 and he's asking me about this clip that we've all seen 700 times, he goes, what do you think of that? So I thought, you know what? Fair enough. Normally I'd ignore this because it's stupid. So I just replied. I just said, looks suspicious. There you go. What more do you want from me? I'm a human.
Yeah, listen, you know, I'm not saying I've even changed my mind necessarily, but I will say this. I know in my own self, I am very unsympathetic to land dodging as an idea, and I probably shouldn't be. I should probably work on that. But once I hear like a player has dodged a few events, it becomes like, well, fuck them then. You know, they're bullshit. Like that's an old school sort of mentality, I think, and you got to think about kids these days, right? Like the younger kids these days. We all know they're fucking not cut from the same cloth we are. Like, fucking hell. You know what I mean? Come on, real talk.
Safe spaces and the
fucking... No, I'm being legit. We're
all on ADHD medication.
No, I'm not going to go that far into the fucking...
Some of them like Harry Potter, all sorts of fucking shit that's just unacceptable, quite frankly.
Now
those are just 3 strikes for me, quite frankly. So,
but like, okay, so to put it in context, when I was 16, I was out the house. I was living like an adult at 16. I had a job. I wasn't living at home with my parents.
That also isn't normal as well, though.
No, I get it. Yeah. I mean, like, obviously, my upbringing is probably what they might call abusive in some circles. But it's hard for me with that to sort of relate to some of the kids. I had a guy the other day. He's like, yeah, I'm 21 and I still live with my parents. And I'm like, yeah, probably people do that now, Richard. You're the old man. Like, you know, times have changed. Like, so I'm trying to be a bit more understanding to this idea of like legitimate reasons for land dodging. And I always think about Joel Z when this comes up, because obviously Natu told me that the kid was really not social. He hadn't been socialized. He lived an entirely online life, and all the weird stuff at the team house with the just breaking away from a practice to go and cook mincemeat because he had to eat at that exact time. And apparently he had crippling social anxiety, which like I'm sympathetic towards.
Okay, here's the thing, Rich. I'm with you on that. If I think about him as a human, yeah, I feel for him, etc. But I would never deal with him as a player in that scenario. Like, listen, I always make this point when you have players who like massively choke or they can't play online at all. I always say this. Well, none of us can fix that. Like, the human mind is going to be the hardest thing to fix. We can fix if you can't quite play that spot on B, or you haven't figured out this flash that goes over fucking mid. We can't fix your whole mind and figure out why you've got some sort of mad anxiety. You can't go to, you know, that's going to take a higher power or bigger skill set than we have. So I am out in that sense, you know.
Yeah, I get it. But yeah, you know, I think I'm trying to be a bit more understanding, especially if you're like if this Sergey kid had dodged a LAN, it wouldn't have been great reputationally, but I wouldn't have been one of the guys criticizing him for it. If it becomes like habitual and you just never ever go to one, then I think it's fair to say something might be amiss. But it's like when we call people onliners, I've said this before, it's always a point that bears repeating. When you call somebody an onliner, we're not saying they're cheating.
In a mad way, it's a compliment. What we're saying is you have passed stage 1 of what it takes to become a really good pro. Now, you might never make stage 2, which is become really good on LAN, but most of the really good LAN players started from stage 1 being really good on LAN for obvious reasons.
Yeah, exactly. And look, we all know that when you're in your home setup and there's no crowd cheering and the stakes are low, it's real easy to fucking play well. If you've got the talent. Well, he's terrible, mate. There are so many boosted casters, and me and you take all the shit for being bad at the game. Yeah. And I'm like, I fucking look at these motherfuckers. It's just as well you're playing with pros every fucking week, right? You all know who you are.
Is, like, I am objectively terrible at CS:GO. I would never pretend to be any good. But put it this way, when I play with Anders, I just go global elite just means nothing, does it? Like, how can you possibly be that, mate? I know how he does it, by the way. I'm not gonna speak too out of school, okay? I'll just give you all a little tidbit. I never knew how he did it, especially because he's playing with, like, you know, me and other people. So we're losing games. I go, how's he getting this global elite rank? Well, one time at night, you know, when there wasn't enough of the guys around to play, I noticed whenever he would have, you know, whenever you need a fourth or a fifth, you go, nah, if you can't get anyone, I think I'll just go. He would magically have people come in and he'd go, all right. And then they'd come in, you've never heard of them. But then first of all, when they're all talking, they're talking about like all like tier 3 names you've heard, like, what the fuck? And then like, all right, you were on that team. They're all semi-pros.
Yeah.
They're all like, you know, some Swedish kid who literally just gets 5 1-digs all the way up like long A on Dust 2. And then you're like, you play with Anders a lot. Yeah, sometimes, you know, he'll bring me in for a game or two. You're like, I bet he fucking does. I bet he's got y'all on rotation. He's got a little Rolodex, hasn't he? Need a little win now, don't I? Just pulling out motherfuckers.
Now you know why he was always fucking sucking pow stick so much, right? All becomes clear. These are the chosen generation, Duncan. They're going to be amazing players. Boost me. Fucking boost me, you Swedish bastards. Boost me. Yeah, he's a fucking wild cunt, man. But anyway, so back to Ensa. Right. And like I said, this Sergey kid's fucking knockout. He's going to be a huge fucking star. Definitely for me, sort of the next, Rops in terms of just the skill ceiling and where he's going to be. And he's going to fucking carry that team if everything works out. But overall, I thought the team, it's not just about him. Yeah, they've got the superstar. They've got the upcoming bright, shining star super kid who's going to be like talked about all through 2019. But they actually have like a pretty good set of there's talent on that roster, right? I mean, it's nice to eat a bit of humble pie now and then. I mean, you must be watching this team and thinking, actually, yeah, these guys are mustard, right?
Well, obviously, the reason why I didn't think they'd do anything is, first of all, whenever you hear that story, oh, there's this young guy and he's really talented. Like, that's everyone, by the way, because no one picks up a 16-year-old who was just fucking like if someone came along with the skill set of tackle, but he was 16. You wouldn't pick him up for your team, would you? Why would you waste your time? You don't know yet that he's going to be integral, do all these things for you. So if you're 16 and you're getting on a pro team, you have to be potentially mad skilled. But the problem is, like every talent industry in the world, there's a million guys who have a sick voice, will never be a singer, for whatever reasons, competing against each other, etc. So it was pretty logical to think they wouldn't do anything. They haven't done anything yet. All they did is qualify online. So I thought it was pretty reasonable. I obviously hadn't seen them play LAN matches, and now that we've seen this lineup play, as you say, probably the best way to describe it is if Alu isn't even going to be the best player in the team, you've got a chance to be a good team, obviously.
Yeah. And yeah, as I said, super happy for fucking Natu because they should make a movie about his life one day. Someone should do a documentary on that motherfucker, a legend. Right. Let's segue into the Esperanto talk then. Because, for all these young players that are coming through, for me, it's super important that they go into a structure where they have experienced players around who can balance the required level of ego to be a young player in a adult's arena and to be, to take on board the star role when you're very, very young and maybe don't have the emotional maturity to be dealing with that sort of pressure and attention. One of the pitfalls of the sort of young player progression is if you get given too much too soon and everyone's blowing smoke up your ass and telling you you're amazing and there's this expectation that you're going to talk a good game to a certain degree. I think it's very easy for like younger players' egos to kind of get the better of them and you can start to stray over that line where people who would be supportive of you because you're a young player and you're up and coming and we all love that story as a sports narrative, all of a sudden they get super turned off by you. And, Smoothie is kind of already, on that.
He's on the line, isn't he?
Yeah. I mean, if not straying over, I mean, he's an example.
I'll tell you right now,
yeah.
People are only loving him because a lot of the shit talk came true and they did the miracle run. If they get banged out in a couple of tournaments, like if they go to the major and just shit the fucking bed, people will hate that guy.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And this is what I mean. And what I think a lot of young players don't realize is the shit talk is great when you are winning. The shit talk is brilliant when you and the team are all firing, when you get inside your opponent's heads and not the other way around. But it will always be a rod for your back if you lose. You create this unbelievable level of pressure for yourself. It's like, look, you can do this exercise yourself. This is how you separate whether you've got the right kind of mental strength to be a top competitor, in my opinion. But like, it's right. Put a fucking 8 ball over the pocket, and 9 times out of 10, you'll knock it in, right?
For some reason, I really thought, like, I'm just going to tell you this just because, again, you don't have a hold back straight fire, and secondly, it's just how fucked up my mind was. I really thought, because you're just saying about like hitting the ball in, I really thought you were going, because you said like how it was the test to see if you really have the nerve or whatever. I thought you were really going to suggest that you have to put the 8 ball on, you put your nuts over the pocket, and just don't move when the guy's going to smash the ball. Because if you could do that, here's the thing: the test would be he doesn't really do it, but it's the idea is if you could actually do that, like do it now, like if you're like Rick, like do it, motherfucker, do it. That's when you know.
What fucking sports teams are you on, mate? What the fuck is going on in your house? What's this, you mad cunt?
Come on, time for the next exercise. Everyone, get your balls out, line up.
Yeah. Oh, Dad, I don't want to be a pro. I can't make it. You're gonna make it a pro in this game, son.
Right. Well, what I was gonna say was put some fucking money on it.
Yeah, right? There we go. Right.
Put some money on it and try and make that shot. And see if you start worrying about the white going in. Put some fucking stakes up. Actual money. Like whatever's a right amount to you, and then try and make that same easy shot that you would knock down 99 times out of 100, 100 times out of 100. It creates a different pressure in your mind, and trash talk can be like that. When you say to somebody, "I'm gonna fucking smash you, I'm gonna bang you out," fighters do it all the time. You have to do it to talk up a fight and sell a fight. But I'll tell you, I've been around fighters. I know the difference between somebody who genuinely believes it when they say it, and then the person who says it and then immediately starts worrying, I'm going to look a right cunt if I get fucking...
Oh, mate, you even see it from fabulous fighters. Like, probably one of the worst examples I've seen is, do you remember when... let me think. It was his last fight in the UFC when Conor McGregor had that fight with, what the fuck's his name? Frankie. No, not Frankie. What's the other one called? Eddie Alvarez. That was it. The one where he fought for the lightweight belt. And if you remember going into it, because it was a big money match, it was like champion versus champion. And Eddie Alvarez is a very good fighter. Eddie Alvarez was like being like mad disrespectful and talking all like mad shit about him. The second he lost that fight, first of all, he was his own like personality was destroyed for like a week because he was completely humbled. And secondly, all he did was make mad excuses all the whole time. I'm underestimated him. It's like that. If anything, what people don't realize is if he hadn't talked the shit, he could have lost and be like, he's a great fighter. Okay, I'll come back. Yeah. But actually, the impact it had on him was so much more negative because he talked shit. And I actually think with a lot of these young players, this might tie into what we're going to talk about. When you do that, when you have like a massive ego. Yes, there's positives to having a big ego, but for me, the worst part is because you decided you're mega and you put all this pressure on yourself. When you fail in a team setting, what do you think people do in team settings? Blame all the teammates. Oh, it's you fucking cunt. Our reputation was on the line. It's going to make you an even worse player in the team.
Yeah, and like you said, it's Esperanto situation. So we finally bite the bullet. I'll tell you, it's like one of your tweets, mate. We finally bite the bullet and we fucking talk up Imperial. Right, and we did it via the way of sort of laughing a little bit and face it, kind of pretending that FPL has done it again. But we talk about them, and we said this Esperanto kid lights out, but it's not just a one-team effort. They've actually got that, that Nookie kid, and Nexus done really well, and we're talking them up, and then immediately destroyed. Like I thought they were still looking good with Crystal in the team. I thought Esperanto was still playing well with Crystal in the team. But this kid just he couldn't handle it. He couldn't handle playing with Crystal. And so he's been benched from the team. And he doesn't even seem fazed by it. I don't think he understands how cataclysmic a decision this could be for a professional career. So he actually put a Twitlonger out.
Yeah, I saw this.
And it was called To Clear Things Up. Now, first of all, I'll say if you're the person that's in the story, you're not clearing up shit when you tell your own version.
No, dude, it's what Stanislaw did. He goes, the truth. Right, here you go. Here's the bloody truth. So anyway, there was a young hero, beautiful, good looking chat, and the bloody world of it's like, come on, man, we don't want to hear your version, do we? Just say, here's what I think happened.
Yeah, from my perspective. But no, to clear things up. So it opens up with a banger immediately. The first line is, I'm benching myself in imp. No motherfucker benches themselves.
I love that, yeah.
No motherfucker benches themselves. Here's what you got told.
Hasn't got a big ego, though, don't worry, Rich. He's only benching himself from the team. I run this team.
Yeah, exactly. I run this fucking town, right? Here's what happened. He said, I don't want to play with Crystal anymore. And the team said, well, we've just signed him, and he's staying, at least until he does something wrong, and results were good. And he's gone, well, it's him or me.
And they've gone, we can solve that for you.
Yeah. Him. That's how it's worked out, right? So, and here's the reasons. He said the team chemistry and spirit died when we replaced Decillion with Crystal. I mean, first thing I'll say to that is your team spirit and chemistry must have been absolutely dog shit then if it was all reliant on one person being on the roster, a player who himself has been a journeyman and you know has really failed to stick to a team ever since he was in Reason Gaming. So that is, for me, a backhanded insult to all your teammates. Like, we got rid of Vasilian and you were just all cunts now and the team was awful. I mean, I've been around Crystal before. I've known Crystal many years. Crystal is a nice guy. I remember when we were at some fucking event and he came over and he had something in his hand and his mother had baked a cake for us, the talent, and he brought it in. You know, now, one cake does not a good person make. But I'm going to go out on a limb here and say Crystal is not a fucking outrageous
fucking
prick.
Dr. Seuss or something. Fucking hell.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, I've got rhymes for days. Listen to my fucking SoundCloud, mate. Straight fire. But you know what I mean? Like, there's no way one guy's come in the team and is so much of a cunt, he's killed everything stone dead. And if that is possible, Crystal ain't the guy. So I think it's more about what he then goes on to talk about. And he says, I didn't want to play with Crystal before and after. I tried, but I got forced to. And I was forced to change myself as a player because of his calls. It affected my impact as a player a lot. It's the fucking Esperanto show, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for tuning in. So let's be real here. So first of all, your org that pays you a fucking salary. Who are you? Are you a fucking board member, mate? Right? Are you on the board, are you? Right? Your organisation that pays you a salary has said, we need to get a player, we're going with this one. And you've gone, well, I don't want to play with him. And they've gone, well, yeah, great, noted, but it's happening. And then he said, and because of the guy who was the in-game leader, keyword being leader there, I had to change and it affected my impact as a player. Now, that's going to happen from time to time. I get it. You're a fucking rock star. But it ain't all about you. And a good in-game leader will recognize that, yes, you've got to utilize star players in the right way, but it is a balancing act. You can't... A successful team is not just saying to the star player, what do you want to do? All right, you're going to look great. We'll just try and play around you. Doesn't work like that. That's why Na'Vi didn't work for fucking ages. Right? It cannot just be one guy balling out of control. Doesn't work. Right? Then he reflects and goes, Crystal might not be a bad in-game leader. All right, very generous of Esperanto to acknowledge that. But he certainly doesn't fit the team. That's what he says. So again, one player making these bold, determined statements. And he then says, you know, talking about how some results weren't all that good. So he then adds this. You're probably thinking you just won DreamHack Summer and got the MVP, so what is wrong? Again, it's all about me. This can be explained easily since before LAN I was really tilted and wanted to leave already, and I told the coach that I'm going to play my game and I don't care what Crystal calls. Reasonable, right? And we went successful through that event. So I defied the system and we were better for it. And after we came back, it was the same stuff. We went to play online matches. He overthinks, we lose, or almost lose to unknown teams because he treats them with too much respect.
I feel like this guy could be from the UK scene. He sounds like a fucking UK player, doesn't he? You know, where they like lose one scrim and they're like, you're out, you're kicked. You de-op him in the channel, get him out.
Yeah. And then
like, it's one game.
Right? He's feeling he can lose. He's losing the room a little bit. He's losing the room a little bit. So he throws in, he goes, I know I wasn't perfect player. That's 100%. And I want to say sorry for everything I have done. and I had a really good time with the team. And I want to say
it all again.
Yeah, exactly. And I want to say thank you for everything they have done for me, which is effectively launch his pro career. But I think I need to move forward, and I hope this is going to be best for them and me. So, in other words, this is the classic, too much too soon sports star story. And this motherfucker wants to watch out because he could be the next Freddie Adu. You know? Sick reference, by the way, if people want to Google what happened to him. We all know he's a great player. We all know he's got the talent. But this is bollocks. This says to me, if I'm running an organization, that I get a boisterous 17-year-old who only wants to play one way, no matter what other players we have, what are the system we've got going, no matter what the pedigree of the in-game leader is, and also will actively just wink, wink, bench himself. And on top of that, then talk out of school about it. I mean, I'll tell you one thing. Pro players, stay off Twit longer, yeah? Like, until everyone's all on the same page. We all love a bit of fucking juicy gossip and juicy drama. 9 out of 10 Twit longers do make you look like a cunt. There's just no getting away from it. You just read it and you're like, what delusional nonsense is this?
Like, you wonder, you can just tell half of them never ran it past anyone. Like, you got to have friends you can run these things past before you go live with them.
It's just absolutely ridiculous. So I wanted to get your thoughts on this. Because I'm sure an organization's going to come in and airlift him out.
Probably.
And I'm sure the Imperial are going to be happy to cash in on him. I'm sure he's got a sick buyout. But
yeah, obviously, my main issue with this is, like, obviously the Imperial's not like a fucking household name. They're not some massive squad. You know, it's not like he's blown his big shot. Obviously, I can understand. One thing I'll definitely give him leeway on is, like, the fact that they won the tournament, he was the MVP, isn't really that relevant in the context that if he really wasn't doing, like, he wasn't playing properly in the team and he thought it was going to be shit and it was shit afterwards. Okay, fair enough. I mean, he's kind of got a point there. You know, it's not like it was working great overall for him, at least. So, but the main issue I would go with it on this one is, first of all, he's barely known. Like, I know to him, he probably thinks he's won this LAN. He's known. He's still not even that known for that, mate. Not everyone watches DreamHack Open tournaments. Then you've got to add in, he's only 17. So first of all, I'll give him some leeway because he's 17.
Absolutely.
But you're also only 17. You don't know fuck all about this business. You don't know fuck all about pro Counter-Strike. So don't assume you do. Like, for example, my first tip to this guy would have been this. If the rest of the team, you actually think they're shit and you don't want to play them, fine. You've done the right move. You're out. Don't do it that way, sure. But the leaving part's not bad. But if you actually thought this team had any potential without Crystal, you have misplayed your hand so fucking hard. Because here's what you do, genius. You just won the LAN. You're the MVP. You go to the next 2 LANs. If, as you say, it's going to be shit, the results are going to be bad, you still keep playing. Do what you were doing there. Do what you wanted to do anyway in the game. You carry, you get your numbers, homie. And then you know what? I could help you get that fucking guy out at that point in time. If the results are shit, you're really good, they want to keep holding you. At that point, you now have the leverage. You don't have the leverage when you're a nobody 17-year-old who has no options. Like, Crystal, as we were saying, has tenure in the scene, is known to be a good influence on the team, has no bad rep with him, no matter all the teams he's been on and some of the bad performances he's had. He has no negativity attached to him. So the difference is, at the moment, because you haven't shown them enough to get the credibility to be in a position where you have the leverage, you've basically just forced your org to choose between 17-year-old who had one really good LAN or a guy who we hope is going to either transition our team to a better place or help the other players get better. It's an easy choice. You might think they were like deliberating, what do we do, Esperanto or Crystal? They did thought instantly, mate, and especially if your coach is on the side with Crystal. You're done already. That's the guy you had to have on your side before you went to war. So that's why I say if you just did a couple more LANs, you'd have had good performances. You could probably get the coach on your side there, especially because he doesn't want to get fired for making the wrong move. That's where, at least, go watch fucking Game of Thrones and stop wanking off to them all the tits and actually look at the espionage behind the scenes. You've got to set shit up. You've got to have nuance. Yeah, it wasn't all just about some dwarf guy getting his dick sucked, you know. That was sick, but there was more to the show than that.
I'll say it as well, you know, just as a general tip, the key thing I have noticed about younger players that are coming through, way too many of them care reputationally about what these guys think out
they
there.
They think they're celebrities before they are. That's the weird part, isn't it? Like, it's like It's like that's. I mean, to be fair, actually, I guess this even ties into some of the things we've seen recently, like we were referencing with the Rush B thing, etc. It's like, why are you addressing the public on all this shit? Why are you airing this stuff? Like, in this scenario, you got to. There's a reason why when we say things as controversial as they might be, and as kind of. We can get away with it to a degree because we have credibility. Like, people know who we are. They know what we're about. They might not like it. They might still think we're cunts or whatever. But you can get away with it. You have to. People don't know who this guy is. All they know is he had one good line, and some of them don't even know that. So, like, your words don't mean a whole lot at this point in time. Yeah, no one needs to know all the backstory on this team. It's never going to, like, here's the thing. If we didn't know this, we'd never be going, oh, but you know what, Rich? One of the great what-ifs in European Counter-Strike was what did happen to that fucking Imperial team? Who? You remember DreamHack Summit? Yeah, DreamHack Summit. What were, like, Fnatic but no, years after that, when no one cared anymore. Esperanto, you say? No, it wasn't in the languages.
Not bad. Good.
By the way,
it's like
name. I like that name though.
Right,
it's a good name.
But here's what I'll say. Is what I'll say about it. Right, like, this is the advice that you need to hear if you're a young and upcoming pro. These people out here, your fans that you are so worried about, they are not your fucking fans. They're people who just follow drama around. They go where the next big thing is. They only give a fuck about you because they project themselves onto you, and they will shit on your fucking face as, like, first opportunity they get when times are bad, when you have a bad LAN. Same names that were sucking your dick when you were banging heads and getting the MVP are the ones that are going to turn around and be like, ha lol, gonna get dropped, sacked in the morning. These motherfuckers are not your friends. You don't need to go out and do PR pieces and twit-longers to pander to them, to hold a reputational position with them at the expense of your career. These people will move on. They're rubberneckers, man. They're looking at a fucking car accident and laughing at the corpse. They don't give a fuck about you. And, kids don't realize it. Smoothie is the same. The fucking Rat King selling state secrets to try and impress everybody.
Another thing is,
these
as well,
people will fuck you over first time they fucking get. They are not your fans. They don't care. I know that. I know that firsthand. I say it all the time, cyclically. I know from my own experience. Sometimes I'm great and I'm loved, and here's an appreciation thread. 3 months later, here's a cunt. Let's fire him. Let's never have him in it. I see the same names in the thread going back and forth. I get the emails from people who said, oh, I loved everything you did, but then you said the one thing I disagreed with, and I lost all respect for you. If that's all it took, all motherfucker. Respect. Yeah, all respect, all gone, withdrawn. If that's all it took, motherfucker, you were never a fan. You were never a supporter. You were just some weird cunt who was hanging around. You thought we had a connection. We obviously don't. And kids don't realize that by playing to the gang, playing to the gallery at the expense of their career, none of these people putting food on your table. Come the fuck on. See the bigger picture.
Plus, if you want to get, like, let's say you think to yourself, oh, this was handled really unfairly and people didn't know I didn't want to play with him. The coach made me to. You know what? You can get all that out. And in fact, you can wreck everyone in this entire scenario that isn't you. But you can't do it now because no one knows who you are yet. Wait a year. And you know what? If in a year from now you're in a good team and you're a top pro and you've done stuff, that's where you do an interview where you just happen to mention, oh, by the way, people probably wonder what happened with that Imperial team. Well, you know what? The coach forced this guy on me. I thought he was shit anyway. But you know what? I put up with him, played with him. And you know what? I never thought he was good, and he's out now. Listen, he was an okay guy, but he wasn't the right player. That's when you do it all, and you can actually right all those fucking wrongs. Then you don't have to do it now. Like, the actual downside to your career is massive, and the upside is basically nothing. Like, think about it. For real, if you're Esperanto right now, what did you actually gain from putting this info out there? No one's on your side. I mean, I'm not fully against you, but everyone else is reading it just going, this hasn't actually helped me explain at all why he's done this. He just seems like he's out of control and an egotist.
Yeah, I mean, and what happens next team, right? Wherever he ends up. First of all, we can't assume that it's going to be a good team, a good roster, right? There's all sorts of issues. And then second of all, well, let's say he got brought into a team like a G2, and he was playing under an existence. You're going to fucking talk smack on him when he doesn't put you in the positions you want.
I know what needs to happen. You know what, face it. You all want that shine. You all want the credit for these players. So I'm going to go ahead and put it on you. You need to do summer boot camps for 17-year-old semi-pro players. And what you do is you have fucking Bardolph and Mikey and all those guys. And what you do is you literally you drill them all on, like, here's what you do. And you don't do this. And here's the way you do. And then eventually, one of them's going to break. It's going to be like fucking an officer and gentleman. Like, why are you here, maggot? It's like, I got nowhere else to go. It's like, it's going to be epic. Do that.
I'd actually think that would be a good idea. I'd like to see.
Would be interesting, right?
Well, I remember
it'd be like that gamers show if it actually mattered,
and people got paid. No, but like that would actually be a good idea. I remember when I was being rep by WME IMG and I just started working the E-League gig, and one of the things they set up was the esports. You know, they've got the famous sports academy. Well, they did an esports academy down there where you were like, you know, learning about how to be like, you know, athlete and look after yourself and diet and, you know, maximize focus and potential and stuff. You know, they were doing boot camps for that. It was the esports academy. It was pretty sick. But imagine one where, you know, we're probably at a stage where this would actually be good and people would pay for it now. Like, you've got all the best in-game leaders, you know, star players, and you come down, you do like a weekend boot camp, and it's all exercise stuff, and you learn about what it is to be like an esports pro. That'd be good. I'd fucking, you know, I might set something like that up. Scoots will probably beat me to it with all his millions. So, but yeah.
And he'll probably just do it for free and give it all the charity they can.
Yeah, no. What a cunt. With his charity work. No, but yeah, I think something like that would be pretty sick, I think. But Esperanto definitely would have benefited. And, you know, again, I'll say it. If you're a young pro and you're coming up like that, this is not how you make a name for yourself. This is not how you basically feather the nest. Really fucking a dumb move to ever take it public. Fitch announced his free agency. No, I'm joking.
It's the way that sort of thing happens, you know, where they're like, they go, officially, Fitch is not fit. And you go, is he even alive still? Fucking hell, fair play. Keep going, brother. Just, you know, at this point, Fitch is just walking down a road like fucking the Incredible Hulk. Another town hasn't worked out for me again, but surely the next one, I will not give up. It's like, come on, man. Come on.
Fucking, I know, man. But I saw that on the news. I'm not going to cover that. Obviously, that's just silly. He's out there. Give him a job.
At this point in time, Fitch's career is so bad that if he goes to Seas, we should team up. Seas to go, listen, I think you're bad luck, actually. I just want to stay away from you. Your career is fucking
So there's that. Look, so we'll talk about one of the big roster stories. Obviously, Tarek leaving Cloud9, moving to MIBR. This is the other thing. So I just want to say, I'm working on an opinion piece for VP Esports talking about, you know, there was the thing about the right choice. That's Stewie, you know, when Tarek tweeted at him, the right choice to join MIBR. And basically saying, actually, Stewie did make the right choice, even though it's bad at the moment. He definitely did make the right choice. Do you not agree?
No, it's just hilarious that he's just like, here's the thing about Tarek, right? You know, when everyone was like, did we go too far with the whole peanut brain thing? Maybe because he won the majors and IGL is really sicking him. It's like, mate, I love him, but what you see is what you get. He's not a very, there's no subterfuge there. In fact, that's what I like about him. He's totally transparent. Like, obviously, when he wants to join MIBR, actually, I now think it was the right move that Stewie joined. Like, well, obviously you say that now, don't you? Like, there's no point. You don't get any points after the fact for saying it now. It's just so obvious, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, so look, there's a few paragraphs about this, so I'll just give a general thought just to put it in there because we try and keep it real. We've said lots of good things about Noah on this show. We like Noah. We've done multiple podcasts with Noah. If I was a Brazilian fan, I'd feel fucking cheated, me. I'm just saying it. I'm putting it straight out there. You do this big announcement, grand party, made in Brazil. It's coming back. The whole point of Made in Brazil, it was Brazilians going out there, repping Brazil, you know, showcasing the best talent in Brazil, Brazilian colors on their jerseys. You know, like Stewie, you can get away with having one, I think, but like, what are we really saying here? Like, are we saying this could become like a Theseus's ship where maybe Fallen decides to retire? I mean, first of all, if Fallen was ever not on this team, you just put the brand in the fucking box for me, but whatever, right? And you know, let's say you replaced him with an American in-game leader. So now you got 3 North Americans playing and only 2 Brazil. How does this premise work? You know, like Stewie being the outlier sort of made it a bit interesting, but you go into your old friends in NA to bring players in for a Made in Brazil project.
Here's the thing. I totally get it, right? That when we discussed this in the past, buyouts are incredibly large. Even shit players that you've never heard of from Brazil cost a fucking bomb. There's all these factors as to why, yes, it might have been very hard to get a player. But you are right. If you call it made in Brazil, you're like, it's coming home to Brazil. Finally, we're upset. The implication is there's no fucking players in Brazil. Like, I know that's not true, but that is the implication. Is like, you know what? There's all those brilliant players where we can't have any of them. Actually, we hate them. We kick them out of the team and they're all mad partiers. All right. Anyone, any up and coming talent? None that we can get. So let's just get these tired old NA players that you all have watched and stream. It's like, why call it made in Brazil then? Yeah, I agree with you. It's very unfortunate, obviously.
So like, here's the thing. I mean, imagine the world I'm in, right? I thought fucking Sam had spiked my fucking drink because I woke up before I came on this show and I was like, I actually agree with Brazilian fans. Me and Brazilian fans are on the same page.
This is a simulation.
Yeah, no, I'm going to wake up and Sam's going to be, it's time for the podcast, Rich. But, it's wild, isn't it? I mean, look, we all know how passionate the Brazilian fucking fan base is to the point where it's a fucking meme. And they got such a massive pop because it was made in Brazil. Brazilian players, Brazilian branding in Brazil, traveling the world to put Brazil on the map in a competitive arena, that nationalist aspect to it, which is a large part of sports, right? Well, now you got 2 North Americans playing on your team, and it just seems, I don't know, it just seems a bit weird, like it wasn't fully thought out. Now, here's the thing I will add. Probably SK Gaming is somewhere to blame in all of this, because I think we can also deduce that it was the worst kept secret in esports. We all knew like I said, we announced it on the fucking show, God knows how many months before it happened. And it was a worst kept secret in esports. I always think they were meant to go there a bit sooner. I think the original plan, if I'm like Noah Winston, I know he's a smart kid, so he's probably thinking, we get them in, made in Brazil, they're fucking sick, they're on top right now, Belo Horizonte is around the corner, boom, we're in. And then I'm sure SK Gaming would just somehow like, no, we will not release them before, and we won't do this, and we won't do that. I'm sure there was some bullshit going on there.
I know that, put it this way, all I'm going to say is this, I knew that they were going to MIBR/Immortals before the major. So it was a long time ago. So you are right. That's why it is a bit weird that it took so long.
Yeah, and unfortunately,
why even let that get out behind the scenes, in that scenario? Because it was a scenario where it was like a kept secret, as you're saying. It was sort of people were even spreading it who were from these people.
And it was evident that the Brazilian players didn't want to be in SK Gaming anymore for whatever reason. I mean, the more I think about it, when Fallen did that fucking tweet, I need a lawyer. Who are these people? I mean, at best, it's funny because it shows they weren't even in communication with the organization about what sponsor plugs were happening and what their image likeness rights were being used for. But I almost wonder if that was like some 4-dimensional chess at times.
That did look a bit like, did I accidentally call out a sponsor here? Well, maybe if you'd have talked to me a bit more, I might not have, there was a bit of that, wasn't there?
Yeah, I honestly thought there was like a fucking, a bit of the old Trump tweet going on there almost. You know what I mean? Like to lower the stock of the organization. Then you had all that bullshit where they weren't wearing shirts at events. They weren't wearing the SK jerseys. And they were like, doing immortal sprays on the ground in games. There was obviously a lot of consternation there between the organisers. So I'm always happy to blame SK for everything. Fuck them. I'll put it all on there. So I'll give Noah the out there. Perhaps he was in a position where he didn't want it to be like this. It took so long to get him in the org. They were shit by the time they got in. That's the unfortunate reality that it dragged on for like 8 months.
This team's a bit shit. Better load up on Cloud9 players.
Classic, man. Back in the room. So look, we're gonna sort of cover it from both sides here. So what do you think of this team and Tarek coming into it? I still think these North American guys are placeholder players. I don't necessarily. Stewie should be able to play in any team in the world. I think he's amazing. I like Tarek. I think he's a sick player. I think he's a great guy. But for me, I don't think he's the right kind of player or the right caliber of player to be sort of rubbing shoulders with Fallen and that. No disrespect to him. I hope he proves me wrong. But certainly I think they're placeholders. And also I'll add, look, we all know Noah and Jack, there's all that simpatico there. We're part of that like set of North American owners who all talk to each other and all do favors to each other. I'm sure like Jack wasn't like mad fucking having Noah's eyes out. He knows Noah's got that VC money. and he's just gone, this is the buyout, and Noah's gone, yeah, I'll fucking write
by the way,
if
you want a little conspiracy theory along those lines, so some other news people heard recently was that Coldzera legitimately did think about leaving, for example, maybe to Team Liquid, reunite with Zeus and Taco. If I'm Cloud9 and I go, wait a minute, right, I'm probably going to lose Tarek and maybe going to lose this lineup. Who knows what's going on with it anyway. But if I sell you Tarek, Team Liquid don't get Coldzera. Yeah, you know what? Maybe we can make this deal happen, actually. You know, enemy of my enemy is my friend. You know, in that scenario, because in this scenario, people are going to say, by the way, wait a minute, Steve Arnesett's a friend of Jack's as well. Yeah, but they're in different worlds, aren't they? Like, MIBR isn't really competing against Cloud9, are they? They do represent South America, and obviously they're explicitly branded that way. Team Liquid is the main rival of Cloud9, and they're much better at the moment already, and would be fucking who knows how good with Coldzera in the line. That could be game over for your whole rivalry ever if Coldzera does that. So that's the conspiracy theory I'd add. So in terms of this team, right, I kind of agree with you. First of all, it's another panic desperation move. They couldn't get any other big player. If you could get another big name, if you could get a really good Brazilian player, you clearly would do it. I mean, as I've said, they can't get them because of buyouts.
They can't get them because they don't exist. They're not good enough. They're good, but not good enough.
Or they're good enough, but they're the ones that they've already rejected for good reason. They're the ones who want to party. They're the ones who don't take it seriously. The ones who will not correct their attitudes. Basically, that covers every player who isn't in the team at the moment, right?
Well,
so then,
I know it's just on that point that Noah, it was like, yeah, Bolts was a model pro and a great guy. Back with that whole Immortals bullshit. It's incredible how somehow just through the natural passage of time, the party boys have fucking came out on top, really. Well, apart from the one still playing in NTC, which is fucking hell on earth. But you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. In a mad way. By the way, that's one area. You know what? I'll go ahead and call him out right now. I actually like Noah Winston. I think he's got in his own little narrow area. He's very, very skilled, very, very good at what he does. But he definitely does overreach some areas and step into domains that I don't think he actually knows anything about and talk as though he does. So one of the things that this is a bizarre area, right, where I'll give you another example of how it's fucking 2018 and we are in a simulation. I actually ended up agreeing with Carmack on a fundamental principle of esports. So when I had that esports salon and it was Carmack versus Noah Winston, it's on topic of like franchising, and eventually it devolved and got into the topic being about, well, which one's better for developing talent, like an open system or a franchise system. And the reason Noah kept saying that a franchise system is better is because his logic was, even if now it's not that much better, because you're going to have infrastructure and coaching and sports psychologists, in the future, that will develop top talent, right? I just want to break this to you now. In Counter-Strike, I don't know about real sports. I won't speak to that. But in Counter-Strike, it doesn't matter how good your fucking coach and your sports psychologist is and the plane ride there and the hotel room. If someone is sick in the way that Simple or Shox or Nico are, they will bang the fuck out of your team with none of that. And your team, if they have all of that, but their players are the old Dennis from Mouse Sports and fucking Skadoodle now, you won't be winning that match. It doesn't matter that you had every piece of infrastructure. It's like that's such a small role, at least in Counter-Strike as it is right now. Like, you definitely have overblown that. So yeah, I always thought people pushed that angle, like we're trying to just get good human beings and make them better. Like, that angle is fucking whack. It might be by the way, it might be a good angle to sell to the public. Investors might be loving that because it sounds like sports, but in Counter-Strike and esports, at least, it's about talent first and foremost. Then you look at, can I work with him? Can I develop him? But talent is the king. Fuck any of the rest of that shit. Anyway, in terms of this team, not only is it desperation move, but I actually think this is a perfect example of the old adage, throwing good money after bad. What you've done is, because it's another badly kept secret is, Stewie2K, it was a massive deal, and he's the guy you're all in on out of everyone. I mean, I guess they've just signed the other ones now, so they've got them as well. But you are all in on Stewie2K. So the point is, you could never, I believe, realistically sit down and ever dare ask yourself the question in the mirror, should I just say no and just remove Stewie2K now or sell him for half as much as I bought him? You couldn't do that, because to do so is to utterly admit defeat on this entire project and what you've done. So as a result, you go the other way and you go, you know what? Stewie2K is having problems. Like, even when he plays decent, he doesn't really fit the team. The whole fucking team's out of whack. They're lacking firepower. A bunch of them are thinking about quitting or leaving or whatever. So here's what we do. Is there someone I can get in that makes Stewie 2K immediately more comfortable, has played with him, maybe even makes him a bit better? Okay, the team's going to have to change radically, but we're already in up shit's creek. We've got no answers. Let's just roll the fucking dice on this Tarek move. Seems like a decent enough player. And at this point, all you're doing is just praying daily with fucking rosaries and everything because you have no clue as to how this team will work. Because the biggest problem is, if I criticised mouse spots in the old SK lineup, like I said before, where it's like, you know, it doesn't really make sense because you've removed the supportive element and you're hoping that it could work. This one's an even more extreme version. Like, don't ever say this team's like FaZe Clan, because it's not. FaZe Clan has Carrigan, an in-game leader who is famous for using super talented players in a loose system. And yeah, he has the most extreme set of super skilled players because he has no supportive elements. But even then, like, it's still Carrigan. He's still got something like that. Fallen's never run a team like this before, where everyone was a star player at some point, including him in a past team. Nobody in the team, except maybe coldzera, has really shown any sort of tendency to be able to play any kind of supportive element within a team. Like, this is a team where if he can make it work, I'll give him massive props. It'll be unthinkable. But despite the fact it's got fabulous players on the lineup, I don't know how this lineup works. Like, maybe they win more games than the last lineup, because the last lineup I thought was actually woeful. But going to like number one and being a potential contender, I don't see that at all. I think this is a stopgap before you have to make a hard move. The hard move might be cut the American players, let coldzera go, cut Fall. I don't know what it is. It's going to be a hard move. That's the point.
Well, look, let me tell you. Yeah, for fucking sure. Look, let me tell you, and I can't remember if DK did something about this or if Nell did something about this. I think somebody put something out there. Let me tell you what I fucking heard anyway. I mean, look, I think people know that Fallen and coldzera have always had a fractious relationship in that, you know, I won't keep harping on with the Kobe and Shaq analogy. It probably is not accurate to that degree. But, you know, Fallen is the guy who effectively discovered coldzera and gave him the opportunity, and he made a very hard roster cut at the time to enable this, you know, relatively unproven, let's say, player come in. And he told everybody, I mean, he nailed his fucking colors to coldzera's mast. And he said, listen, this kid's going to be amazing. He's exactly who we need and exactly what we need. And then coldzera did take the world by storm for 2 fucking years in Counter-Strike, playing absolutely out of this world, cheating allegations, doing things that like just didn't even seem possible with the naked eye. One of the best players we've ever had in any version of the game, right? Now, all the while that's going on, everybody fucking knows that coldzera has got that star player ego and that star player mentality, and he thinks he's probably a little bit smarter than he is, and he thinks about the game that his way is right, the way to play this right. Now that would probably be fine if he played in any other team, but the one with the fucking godfather of Brazilian Counter-Strike and probably one of the best in-game leaders who has ever touched any version of the game. So everybody knows, if you know anything about these Brazilian guys, everybody knows there are periods of time where those two do not get along. And they will have heated moments. But
that's actually what I really respected about them last year. Like, same with the Fur and coldzera, that they actually weren't like best buds who just loved everything and, love your game, love your game. It's like, fuck it, if we can win, let's keep it going. If we can't, well, we'll deal with that when we get there.
Yeah, exactly. And everything's great when you're winning and you're the world number one. But when there's hard times, because Fallen, as you said, is the brutal perfectionist, will make the hard cuts and the hard roster choices. And coldzera is the consummate professional, the unyielding work ethic, right? You've got those two people, so they both have very different ideas about how you solve the problem. coldzera probably looks at his teammates and thinks we're not working hard enough. Yep. Fallen probably looks at his teammates and says, I think if we work, no amount of work can fix it. Maybe we need to cut somebody, and maybe we need to change something structurally, change a role, do something. When those two philosophies collide and clash, somebody is going to want to basically say, I've got the veto. And that happened recently. That's why coldzera was calling on some maps. Utterly disastrous. But for Fallen to yield and give that kind of power and influence in the team away from himself for the first time in his tenure over the Cold Zero shows almost like, first of all, that Fallen really...
That's like the beginning of the end. That's like an omen, isn't it?
Exactly. It shows how much you want to make it work, but it's like being in that relationship where you say, I'll change, I'll do anything to keep you. They never respect you for it. You're already on the slippery slope. And I think that's what's happened here. Like, honestly, I think Cold Zero was going to fucking leave. I got told it was 100% happening. People were calling me up going, get ready today. Cold Zero's going to leave him. I was like, I don't know. I've heard it before. Well, I'll believe it when I see it.
That's also, by the way, why I mean, this is pure speculation. Like, I actually do talk to Cold Zero sometimes at events, but this is pure speculation. I've never talked to him about this particular topic. But I actually wonder, when I look back now, if, for example, trying to get Simple was to please Cold Zero. It's like, right, well, the team's falling apart. What if we get you Simple? What if, at least you've got another guy, he's ready-made superstar, he's already banging. Probably the same thing when they got Stewie. It's like, right, okay, we couldn't get that. It is Stewie 2K. Look at, he's a pretty self-motivated, driven player. This all seemed to me more like the kind of move that would please him rather than Fallen thinking this is the best move. Because I don't believe Fallen actually wanted fucking Simple to join his team. I don't really think that's really his cup of tea. His mode is more like, let's get a Brazilian, let's work with them. Listen, it's going to take time. Whereas that's the problem. If you hear that story, the great story about Fur and Cold Zero last year, where when they had those initial first problems with the Phelps lineup, when they'd like bombed out a Star Series or whatever, there's this story that they had an argument and then they went their separate ways and Fur was literally starting to pack his bag like, right, well, this team's done. Either he's going or I'm going. And apparently Cold Zero came, knocked on his door, and basically they just sort of like hugged it out and were like, fuck it, let's just win everything. And obviously it's a sick story because they did win loads of tournaments. But the problem with that story is that kind of shows that like, they have very different mentalities. Like they're not, and especially it shows Cold Zero's mentality, which is that I'm winning now because my game's already ready. I'm at the top. This is my window. I've got to get my championships. I can't wait a year while we develop some guy we never heard of or make a new version of Counter. Like, not only can I win now, but I don't have to do it in this team, mate. Yeah. If I can't win with you now, I'll be in Team Liquid. I'll be in FaZe Clan, and you'll be figuring this shit out. So unfortunately, Cold Zero holds all the cards.
Yeah, oh, definitely. And look, again, to give an analogy that's like more closer to Counter-Strike, the dynamic between the two of them always reminded me of Taz and Neo a little bit. That, it was like you've got one amazing star player, very different personality archetypes. And it's like, it's not
By
that
the way,
they're best.
A lot of people won't know this, but actually in 1.6, for the last 3 or 4 years, there were repeatedly rumors, which were real, that Neo would leave that team. And a bunch of times it was close and he stayed. Similar story.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. There was one time because didn't Evil Geniuses almost get him at one point?
Before Lurpus, they asked
Before Lurpus.
And then I believe one, because I think he actually said this in an interview, so I'm not speaking out of school. I think actually Fnatic asked him at one point in time when they needed to make a pledge. So these were like, again, same scenario. You're not going to some shit team. If you leave, first of all, your team's fucked because you're Neo. Same as if you leave this team, you're fucked because it's Cold Zero going. But it's you that's going to the good place. You're going to, at that point in time, the teams we're talking about now, by the way, like Evil Genius is sure not that mega, but like Fnatic, like this is like he's going to join a better team and you're sliding down and he'll still be up here. So again, similar scenario because obviously, despite their differences, you kept the relationship just healthy enough it could get to the next win. And
that's what I mean. And I think people have this, like, people who aren't juiced into the scene like we are and don't get to go to the events and talk to the players and all of that, don't live the life, They probably believe that, like, Taz and Neo, one of the greatest bromances in esports history. Man, it was fucking fractious.
That's a successful marriage that just held together.
Yeah,
and by the way, if you'd have asked me at any 2-year span, I would have never told you they'll make it 2 more years. There are so many times where it's only winning and results that kept that fucking marriage going.
Yeah, and it makes me wonder whether we'll see the wheels come off sooner, because again, you've got to be a very special kind of personality type to be able to keep making that work. And I don't know if I think Cold Zero is looking at what might be a closing window on the CSGO era. We don't know what's coming next. We never know what's around the corner. One of the greatest players to touch the game, a guy who's been very public. I think he said in interviews he'd like, if he could, he'd love to play with the likes of Nico and stuff. Well, here's the thing. Everybody says shit like that, but for him, it's fucking, he can make it happen. It's like, it's like, love to date Jennifer Aniston. Well, if you're fucking Brad Pitt, you get to do it. You know what I mean? And that's Cold Zero. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But yeah, I think there's a lot of problems. And I'll say this: if MIBR lose Cold Zero, I think they're fucked. I think they're so fucked.
Here's the thing: like I said a tweet like this. So I still think that if Cold Zero went, they could become a good team again. But like I say, you would be going back to the drawing board. What you'd be doing is you'd say, right, forget the rest of it. Fallen, your team again, 100% you. Find the next players, reform it, change your whole game if you want. And you know what? I'll go ahead and say it. I think you could do it. But put it this way: they would be bad for a while.
Oh, like it would take 9 months, like something like that.
They would be back down to being like, we don't make the playoffs of majors we play. Like that's where they'd be at, So I think he could do it because he's one of the few people I would put my money on like that. I think he's a winner in the true sense of a captain in that sense. But yeah, you're absolutely right. And by the way, that's why I can also see Cold Zero's side of it, because I've seen it happen in sports so many times. The thing that kills so many teams that could have still been great is when you had the glory days and when the star player, who's still one of the best in the league, realizes, fuck, it's not going to happen with this lineup. Everything's telling him to leave. Because, first of all, he doesn't know the problems of other teams, so he just sees all the positives. And then if he thinks he can go and join a team that's already better, it's so hard to keep that free agent when he's available,
And let's talk about the Cloud9 part of the equation. Obviously, I'll say this, that there's a perception among Cloud9 fans. I saw an exchange on Reddit that was doing the rounds, people tweeting it. Yeah, where a fan basically said, Jack doesn't want to spend the money, and Jack replied and said, look, I'll sign the players if they're there. I've signed the players that the players wanted and the coach wanted. I'll write the checks. And then the fan, who obviously has Cloud9 flair, doesn't say, thanks for replying and being interested, owner and founder of the brand I supposedly love. He just goes, lol, you've just lost another player to one of your rivals. You're the fan of the team, you daft cunt.
And you are also, by the way, the reason why he is now less likely to ever give us any information on Reddit publicly. Yeah. By the way, it's not a problem for me. I can go hit him up now and find out what's going on. But you guys will never find out certain information that he doesn't want to come out otherwise because of stupid behavior like that. Come on.
No, it's fucking
why are you
ridiculous.
dunking on him?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Why are you
also,
dunking
where's
on your
fucking team? Yeah, exactly.
Dunk on your own team.
Yeah. That would be like me just going like, lol. Look, that'd be like some Croatian for like, look, they scored an own goal, dickhead. It's your country, you moron. You need them to win.
It's wild, isn't it? So, look, but I will also add the caveat. I do understand why Cloud9 fans would be a little bit frustrated because you go from winning a major. It's been a downward spiral in terms of performance since then. You watch Stewie go, and Tarek's gone. Skadoodle was meant to be going and you were meant to be replacing him.
He was supposed to, by the way, on that move as well. That was supposed to, here's the thing. I don't know if Skadoodle doesn't get the memo on anything that's going on. When Skadoodle was going to voluntarily retire, that was your classy way to go out like Flaren before they have to fucking cut you and get you out of this game. So that was your moment. Listen, you won a fucking major. You think they think there's more majors on the horizon? Are you out your mind? This was your one chance to actually leave, not on top, but vaguely with your head held up, where even Cloud9 fans, all of them would have still said, love you, wish you could have played longer, shame you can't, though. How many more signs do you need? A fucking massive neon sign. Get out, bot.
Yeah, no, but here's the thing. Like, if Scar had gone out then, like you say, not only is it a wonderful, way to sort of end the chapter and bring in somebody else, everything else, it's not like Skadoodle's career is over. Here's the thing.
I played some other team for sure.
Yeah, I started writing an article about it. I never finished it, and it was going to be like an open letter to Skadoodle because obviously we're not tight in any way, shape, or form. He doesn't. I don't even think he likes me at all. And that's fine. Good reason. The I by power thing. We've fucking dunked on that cunt for years. So I understand it. I understand why he wouldn't want to fucking, but I made a point at the major when he had that performance, got the MVP. I didn't go up and shake his hand and say he played fucking sick. I always try and leave it nice, I'll talk to anyone, but I get it if he doesn't want to, it's fine. We don't all have to get along. But I'll also say this. His career doesn't have to be over. I don't know why he's thinking in binary terms. Like a complexity, he'd love to fucking, pick you up or, an organization of that ilk. There's still juice in the tank if you want it. And here's the thing, even though your personality's not like the most glowing, most popular streamer in the fucking world's got the personality of a cardboard cutout.
It is mad, isn't it?
So just if you're good at the game and you interact with your chat and you're a nice guy, you'll always have a fucking audience. So Skadoodle has got options, you know. I don't know why he didn't want to enact them and take them. There was definitely a window where the story could be brilliant.
By the way, if he still wants to play, as long as he's willing to go to like fucking Renegades or NRG or some team like that, he'll also still be loved by fans. Like,
people are thinking I'm talking about Shroud, not talking about Shroud, talking about Ninja, absolutely talking about Ninja.
I mean, I can see why you could make a difference between them, because what's the fucking difference in their personalities?
Yeah.
Haha, I'm winning the game. Yeah, sick. This is amazing, mate. I love it. Get me out of here.
I actually consider Dry a personality archetype. Like, I don't know what Ninja is.
Shroud actually has some kind of humour built in there.
He's a funny
it's very nuanced, but I don't even know what Ninja is.
I feel like I had to say it because I didn't want someone like linking the clip to Michael, like going,
no.
Richard's still dunking on you. Like, no. Shroud sound like fucking. But Ninja is mental. I don't know how deranged
success, but there's a reason every fan of his is 13.
Did you see that clip of Ninja?
Still waiting for the second ball, and I'm not talking about New Year's Eve.
Did you see that fucking Ninja clip? It blew my mind, mate.
These kids are going like, Ninja.
No, that's fine. That's fine. If you want to be a children's TV entertainer, I'm down with that. Yeah, do your thing. Sometimes, I think, if we went involved with Counter-Strike, that's probably the shit we'd have to do, mate. Like doing kids parties, like, hi everyone, here's a balloon animal. You know what I mean? Like that's what esports would be, right? If it trended that way, if we didn't have adult games. But there was this clip I got linked to, right, where he was talking about the Drake thing. Now, the Drake thing put him on the map. Like, prior to that, yeah, he was really popular, tens of thousands of viewers, hundreds of thousands occasionally. The game he's the best at is blowing up. Everything was going well. And he has been a grinder. It's not overnight success. That's a complete misnomer bullshit. He's been grinding away for about 10 fucking years.
He is a grinder, not he's been on Grindr. That rumour is totally unfounded as far as I know.
Yeah, thank you. Get me fucking sued by him. But anyway, but he did a clip, right, where he was talking about Drake, which put him over the top into mainstream legitimacy, no doubt about it. People were even saying he was view-botting his stream and stuff before that. Even his fellow streamers thought there was something weird about it, how his chat would be super inactive and everything else, right? But anyway, he was doing like a reflective thing where he was like talking about the Drake incident, and he went, yeah, the thing with Drake is, though, is he going to buy my merchandise? I think he just used me to sell more records. I was like, yeah, I know. Can you, Duncan, I've known you a long time. Your ego is out of fucking control. Would you ever in your wildest dream, if you were hanging with fucking Drake, be like, Drake's just bloody using me, isn't he? Like, how fucking wild.
That is one of the maddest moments.
Didn't he get paid to do the stream anyway?
No, I don't know. There's never any evidence out there.
Let's keep those rumors definitely secret.
Yeah.
Probably did all
I don't know. It looked... It looked organic. Whatever.
Yeah,
but again, just imagine saying the guy Drake's using me to sell more. No, motherfucker. If Drake comes round for a cup of fucking tea, you put the kettle on, you daft cunt. I can't even fucking believe it. Anyway, right. So back to Cloud9. I understand. Mad segue. Back to Cloud9. They obviously have picked up Golden now. And they've got Stiko as a stand-in, which I know a lot of Cloud9 fans didn't particularly like that, but hopefully they're going to give him a chance, be a bit more understanding.
I still can't get over that. I wasn't aware of that clip. That's so bad.
I'll send you the actual thing.
Ninja, could you just listen? You're doing great, but can you have 1 second of self-awareness and realise Drake fucking gave you more fatherly attention and brought you more than fucking Adidon?
He's bringing in the rap beef.
Man, don't get me fucked. What is wrong with you, man? What is wrong with you? Right, anyway.
Timestamp all of that.
No. You can fucking... you drop your fucking rap track.
Yeah, Drip can come at me.
Yeah, right. So anyway, right. They've got Stiko in there as a stand-in. No idea if it's meant to be a permanent...
by the way, Rich, add that in as well. So, you know what? We've lost Stewie, somewhat the talismanic player of our team. If anything, we bargained everything because, we've lost nothing. We lost Sean Garrett. Everything's pretty much on Stewie 2K, right? He's gone, you know what? Still, we still got 4 members of the lineup that won the major. Maybe we could do it. Lost Tarek as well. I mean, he was literally the in-game leader of the team. And personally, I thought he was the best player on the team in the major. Did a lot of amazing shit. Great in the final. You know, again, another player who's actually done a lot in the last few teams he's been on. Optic, obviously fantastic. Now Cloud9. We've lost him as well. Oh, fucking hell. But you do have money though, Jack. Yeah, I've got money. You've got some signings coming. Yeah. European? Yeah. You're going to like these ones? Yeah. So who is it then? You know Sticko? Yeah, sorry, misheard there. So I thought you said Sticko. Sticko. Fair enough then, Sticko. Because it's going to be like Sticko and Simple, Sticko and Nico. Sticko and who?
Yeah.
Really? Right. So, and that's the lineup. That's going out like that. Like,
yeah. But
that's when they literally do that move where it's like, you know, where they go into the closet and they come out with like the different jersey on, like, yep, Team Liquid, here we go. Like,
I know.
How do you have any faith at that point in time? Come on.
Here's the thing, right? Like, for real, this is an hard segment for me because I was talking up Golden. I thought he got absolutely wrecked by Fnatic.
Say what? We got the Golden Boy. Oh, fucking hell. What, you got Simple? No, Golden. That Golden Boy. This lineup's so garbage, it's unreal, isn't it? It's so bad, Rich. You don't work for E-League anymore. It's fucking garbage. They're going to get banged on at E-League Premier. Come on. It's so bad. It's like, you know, when we make the joke. You know, you make the joke that like FaZe, it's like if HLTV.org users made a lineup. This lineup's like if HLTV.org made like a lineup of the worst players, and then Jack was just like, I'll give you everything. Oh, fuck, it's the wrong one. I thought you said the best players. Shit. Oh, bloody hell, what have I done?
Golden's a solid pickup for in-game leader.
He's all right, yeah. Here's the thing. He's okay. But the problem is, there's so many other players in the team that have no firepower. How can you have him as well?
Oh, yeah, I know.
I'm with you. If we could reset the whole board and start with Golden, okay, I'm with you there. But he can't be the last person added to this team.
Right, and let me tell you, someone needs to get a fucking Hallmark card, like, sorry for your loss, and send it to Automatic, mate, because he's got to be fucking tamping.
He has turned down all the moves to delete.
He turned down MIBR, like,
for your loyalty. I broke the bank. I've got your Sticko and Golden.
I know it. Right, he's like, I bloody miss you, Stewie. Thanks for everything. Big hook on the way out, but we're gonna rebuild. It's gonna be great. And then she just turned around and fucking Sticko and Golden. And he's like, oh no.
By the way, if anyone wants to get like a longer segment version of this, in my video I did about Tarek joining an MIBR, the last 20 minutes I just break down his twit longer and roast him completely because the twit longer is so ludicrous because you know when you tell white lies because you want to make people feel better. Nah, yeah, you look all right in that dress. You wearing that? Yeah. No, it's fine. I think you look. Yeah, you can pull it off. You tell someone, oh, you know what? You'll do better than her. She'll bloody miss you. That's what Tarek basically did to all his last teammates. He was going, tell you what, I love them all. They're all more than teammates with me. I'm out, by the way. I thought this was going to be the last team I ever played for. I'm definitely going to be playing for other teams. Oh, you know, another thing. I really think that wasn't a fluke when we were in the major. Get me the fuck out of this entire org. I don't want to ever play with any of them ever again. Oh, but you know what? Thing is, I actually think they'll make it back to the top again. And I tell you what, I bet they're going to bloody meet me at the top, aren't they, when we're all doing great, but I won't be involved because I don't believe it's going to happen. It's like the whole thing was like, fuck that. It's like Tarek two-faced. This is Tarek. When it's just speaking the truth, he's all right because he's a lovable guy. That was his attempt at subterfuge. It was so shit. It was unreal.
No, I'll tell you straight up as well. What was the icing on the cake of this was that Double Tap put out a piece of content.
And it was
Tarek and Rush, right, talking about life together. Yeah,
teammates for life. Now, in that scenario,
teammates for life.
The obvious joke there is, well, sorry, Rush, but you know what you got to do. Come on,
teammates for life on the day you walk out. It's like that fucking episode of Futurama with the Lucy Liu bot. I'll always remember you. Memory deleted. Like, it's fucking over immediately. It's so stupid, man. But, like, yeah, look, okay, here's what I'll say. I do not have any high hopes at all for this Cloud9 lineup. And I don't know where they're going to go with it, but I'm
going to go ahead and assume like they haven't fully signed Sticko and this is just a makeshift lineup. Like as much as I'm roasting them now, I don't think even they think this is the 5 that's going to play like 3 years together. Come on.
No, I mean, but I will say this: there's a good opportunity here for Golden. I'll say that.
Oh, by the way, they do even half decent. He'll look like a god.
Yeah. So just saying. I hope he aces it for his sake, because it'd be nice to stick one up all the fucking Fnatic fans that were like, you know, yeah, say you Golden. Right. But anyway, there was loads more to talk about.
Fucking Fnatic, obviously, that'd be juicy as fuck, wouldn't it? Oh, they're not in the same group, actually.
No, they're not, unfortunately.
What?
Yeah, but anyway, well, maybe they can meet in the later stages, Duncan, who knows? So anyway, look, we'll wrap up the podcast there. Sam, have you got the titles for me?
Yeah, hang on, let me dig them up, mate. There you go.
You know, right, there you go. I'll just wait for them to come through.
There you go, mate.
There it is, brilliant. You've Control V, awesome. All right, so yeah, that was the show. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We're going to do another one on Friday because remember this is our catch-up month. We've also updated all of the audio versions. I'll say this, guys. Listen, the audio stuff goes out for free. It actually costs me money to put it out. Please don't come to me with suggestions of other free audio platforms. We do too. It's on fucking iTunes and Podbean. That's your lot, mate. Come on. Stop being cunts like that. Like, can you put it on your SoundCloud as well? And can you put it on this? And have you heard of this one? And like...
They tweet me like going, you know how easy it is to put it on Spotify? It's like, fucking suck yourself off, mate. I got shit to do during the day. What do you mean? Do you know how easy it is to make my life easier?
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know how easy it is to download an audio version of a YouTube video, you fucking meth head?
All right.
Reasonable.
I like it. Encourage them
They're
to
all
pirate
meth
our
heads,
own
of course.
shit.
Yeah.
Stuff. Yeah, but whatever. Fuck them. But the people we do love are obviously the people that pay to make the podcast possible, which are our $100 patrons: Botvic, Chris Enwin, Detlef Insomniac, TTMXMP, Hyolu, Ruxon, and Jerky's Minion, and of course our $50 patrons: the Archangel Varao, Sardsawar, Daniel Plamanov Yordanov, Pete Bidstrup, TC Owens, Vexy, Nostradamus, Marcus Kjumpar, Madsen, Ollie Ginter Zillan, Colin Penny, Mama Jamma Hennessy, Benakagi Assassin, and William Southern. And a special shout out, by the way, to the people who've been patrons and then they've had to drop out for whatever reason, who send me messages saying, you know, can't afford it. You never need to do that for me, mate. It's your fucking money. Definitely spend it on yourself. If you can always chip in, absolutely appreciate it. It's why we are able to do it. But obviously, you don't owe me any explanations about how you spend your hard earned. So I love all the people that do that. Anyway, that was By the Numbers. We'll be back doing some talk about the NA Minor and whatnot and a few other bits of news on Friday, so make sure you join us then. Until then, take care of yourself.